Hey, good evening to everybody. It is Monday, the 2nd of October today, and welcome to everybody in the chat room and whoever's going to watch this when it's uploaded, and over to the panel. Thanks for everybody so far coming on. Walter from America, Ceres Holland, Patricia UK, and we have Adam from the UK. And Walter and Adam are from I Am Realm Media. So welcome, guys. Welcome, Patricia, Judith. Oh, I think Astral Thief's coming on now. To me, anyway, he should be on. Yeah, so before we get into everything, Ceres is going to play a little video.
Have you heard about the upcoming Flat Earth Conference happening in the UK? It's set to take place April 27th to the 29th of 2018. In just 8 weeks, this grassroots organized event went from only a loose idea to an incredible 3-day event that everyone is sure to enjoy. Now let me explain what we're doing. We've launched a website that's split into 4 different areas. One of the areas will display the ticket pricing, and we hope that it will suit most pockets and allow more people to find a good timetable to attend the parts of the event that they would enjoy most. Another area of the website will explain the event itself and how it's split into 3 different programs. For example, on Friday, we'll be having a fairly fluid evening just to sort of get everyone warmed up. Saturday is really the centerpiece, and it's dedicated to the main speakers of the event to give them a chance to present their latest ideas and the current projects they're working on. Also, there will be an opportunity to extend the discussion to the audience with a Q&A section. And finally, the Sunday portion of the event will be dedicated to a debate between the speakers covering 1 or more topics, and each will have a chance to talk about the flat Earth model that they are leaning most towards, and vice versa. The website will also help everyone get acquainted with what accommodation options there will be, alongside other useful information. And we will be hosting a private Facebook page for attendees to join and really stay up to date on everything pertaining to the event from one official and easily accessible source. It'll also be a great way to break the ice with folks before the event starts. After all, we'll be fairly close to each other during the event, so this will be a great way to start getting to know some people before you're actually there, especially if you're traveling quite a ways anyway. And look, just so you know, this wasn't all set up to simply put on a 3-day event. Not at all. This actually grew into something much more than we imagined, and it truly has the potential to provide more local links and a legacy for the future. For more information about this event that we're now calling the FEC UK 2018, just visit www.flatearthconferenceuk.co.uk. We hope to see you there. Doesn't look again, must love the rulers. I'll go back to the ball. I can't believe that shit. That's when they take a step back and look at it. Everything they show you is CGI. God, what is this? Why? You can tell me gravity accounts for space and time, but I'll go back to the ball. 'Cause I won't trust myself.
Ooh, so that's happening next April. We will keep playing it, and what's going to happen is over the weekend I'm going to be talking to Gary. He's coming on a hangout with me to talk about the conference, the convention. Sorry, it was a conference, it's been changed into a convention, so we will talk about that next. And Ceres, we decided to play the next video.
Yeah.
that work? Hello.
Welcome.
Just playing Ceres' the video I did about Ceres' work. That's more or less the end now. That's the end series. That's the end series. Ooh, we have another member of Iron Realm with us.
Oh, I do. Hello, Karen.
Hello. So who do we have? Who's under Iron Realm Media?
This is Josh.
Hello, Josh.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, we've met you before. Just checking. Well, I just put a bit of Ceres' work in, but I realised really, like, I know what that all is, but maybe everybody else doesn't. But we do put our work out quite regularly, so, and it is on other Hangouts. So through that video was Astral Thief. Hello there, Astral. He's saying hello. He's gone quiet. You're muted.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Hi, everybody.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Cool. We're just looking at Ceres' work and probably talk a little bit, and then Iron Realm are going to explain a bit more about themselves. So I thought that was a good idea. But yeah, welcome. And then we've got yeah.
Messages.
Beep, beep. Why is that?
Josh?
I am here. Sorry.
Hello. Well, we know you a little bit, don't we?
Yeah, a little bit. I did do a little bit of explaining as to who Iron Realm Media is and where it is we came from. Now that we have others here, we might let them take over and get their take on it too. I think it's really interesting story.
Cool. So just before we do that, because I do want you to talk about it. So I know that maybe you might have seen a little bit the other day, or maybe you caught the end of it. But Adam and Walter, what did you think of Ceres' work?
I'm intrigued as to the meaning of it. Obviously, I think it requires some monologue to explain what we're seeing. I mean, it appears to be a projection of a Mercator map, so I'm not sure exactly what's going off or what the significance of the tie-dye pattern is, or heat wave pattern, or
I will take a lot
so
of
I
blame
think
for that too. I sat on this video for a little bit trying to wrap my brain around it. I would have to watch it basically in 20-minute increments and then go back and try to watch it again in 40-minute increments and then try to watch it all again in 60-minute increments. It wasn't that easy to just sit through and grasp it all at once. But to really understand it does take a little bit.
Yeah,
it's very different to a lot of other people's work. Ceres, explain it a bit, but Ceres, you don't have all night because we want to hear one from Realm as well, and a bit from Astral and Patricia. So, but just explain a little bit about this series.
Yeah, it's began with the photographic data. I began gathering all the photographs on from the lowest level up to the highest level possible to actually figure out what photographs were missing. But building up the main graphic of the photograph stayed just a single square. And the funny thing was that it only was up to the latitude 85, but the full longitude, the full minus and plus 180 longitude. And that 5 missing degree ended up through through a translation function between the GPS and how they store the photographs themselves as a pure XI grid. And through that formula, they translate the GPS into which image they need to load as a complete image in front of you as a two-dimensional projection. And but I missed the last 5 degrees, and eventually the whole sea began to missing as photographic data as well. So we couldn't actually see what the sea itself showed as elevation data in their coloring in the blues, etc. And I was very interested in the elevation data because that showed way more in the detail of how you look at the photograph. That is the z-axis in when you have only xy as a two-dimensional one. And the elevation data came out of the Google Maps elevation service within Google Maps itself. And it took a while to bring the whole world in a picture, but eventually I have enough detail to see a very rough scale of it now. And
so can I interrupt there? So you're saying that this is plotted data extracted from GPS information?
Yeah, the photographs themselves are in a pure XY grid. And those I can only request through a certain zoom level and a particular XY precision within that zoom level. And it adds up all to just a single square. And that single square is incomplete in the GPS coordinates. You have only up to latitude 85. And through their GPS translation into the XY grid, I discovered that the last 5 degrees actually created a complete square beyond it. So I ended up with 3 squares on top of each other. And apparently east and west was a looping part in that we can see in the images, and the elevation itself the same. And this way I ended up with the X, Y, and Z coordinates. Oh yeah, and the GPS of the elevation data itself is only requestable through GPS coordinates. And I have also the other way around, that I can just take a particular XY coordinate within the photographic dimensions and then translate that to the GPS coordinates I need to actually get the elevation for that particular position on the map. And out of that, I could actually create the actual 5 extra latitude, building up the whole triple square. And this particular data beyond the square is, through their own formula, practically impossible to get it out of any projection than it actually comes in this square. The edges are in the north and the south are compressed into a single pixel on practically any image you create. That is their particular infinity problem, what they have. And
Ceres, do you want to show them that picture that you've done like that, how they did from the land to the ball and that? You've got those pictures. Do you want to show that to them?
Yeah, I need to open that first.
And could I just say, the full armor has come on. Is he part of Iron Realm?
He is. We're almost a full crew here. We're just a couple short.
Wow, that's brilliant then.
Hello, I'm James, full armor.
Hello, James.
Hi, living in Canada. Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for the invite.
That's okay. Brilliant. You can make it. Ceres, you're just finding a few pictures because it is a lot to take in. You didn't think that I didn't sit there probably with my mouth open when Ceres was showing me to start with. It's just they're telling you the truth and then they go and lie to you. So what you see on Google Maps is roughly the truth, except how they've morphed the top and the bottom to sort of squish it in because they've got to make the ball. They've got to make it so they're sort of showing you the truth and then they've got to make it into the ball. But we've got like data readings on Google Maps at the moment, somewhere. And when you zoom in, the lines will become straight. You zoom out, becomes a ball. You okay there, Ceres?
So when Ceres was saying the photographic image, are you saying the photographic image extracted from the Google Earth?
Yeah,
Google
every
Maps.
picture they put.
Yeah, sorry.
Cool. How they store their original images. I'm just downloading the direct image and I glue them together as a single image, making up a way better detail of what you can get in a single image from them.
And just to explain that the darker colours are Antarctica, and then the green colours are above Russia, and that's water. But there, the water isn't quite so deep as it is where Africa and South America are. So there's no elevation in there, but there's elevation data in the water above Russia. It's water above, land below. And that first one is what Ceres gets, and then the others is what they turn it into. And so they lose all this data at the top and they lose all this data at the bottom.
Yeah, the first step already destroys north and south. That data, what you see on the left side, can't in no way come out of that single pixel where it disappears in. Especially that particular wave in the south. And the funny thing is, this particular wave actually is a particular edge of a flower of life grid, what I drew over this.
Ceres, don't do it all because I'm probably blown as it is, but do a bit of it. Ceres has been working. If I could just explain to everybody, in January, Ceres is where Matt Jerome, drawing. He had loads of drawings, and since January, he's done all this.
And so this is basically to replace that AE projection, to show that the AE projection is no more correct than the globe.
Yeah, we can show you another little video if you want how they made the Gleason map.
What I practically discover is that the triple square is what they actually store in data. And it actually matches up what they practically need for a GPS projection, as in that you have the full latitude and longitude in a one-on-one projection, what you can actually put on a ball.
And see, this I think is where you're going to, where Iron Realm, a lot of the guys in Iron Realm Media is going to run into a wall, because I think I heard you explain it, and that when we come to try to understand the shape of Earth, that we're going to have to start including some very spiritual and sort of paranormal explanations, some things that we're not quite ready to grasp, some things we may not quite fully understand yet before we can really get a good grasp on what it is we're dealing with here. And I think maybe that's the Zetetic idea from Iron Realm is running into that sort of paranormal aspect of what it is we're really looking at with this east to west loop versus like the AE projection circular map.
I'm just going to find you a little video to show you how they made the AE map. But just take me a couple of minutes to go and get the link.
I would add to Josh's point there. I wouldn't preclude anything. I would just, obviously, if when we starting to talk maybe a bit more metaphysical, then proof is not something as easily measurable. So not necessarily proof, but certainly the effects. I would ask, what effects are you suggesting that there are, that we can see, that's creating the illusion that we live under at the moment? How is this put together to work? Because and maybe a little bit more detail on the, so let's just say the top square, how that's formed and what those images represent. Or the bottom, it doesn't matter. I mean, I suppose it's reciprocal in a way, isn't it? That, but yeah, maybe just a bit more detail. I've got.
So from what, just before,
he is trying to tell you how they did it. and I'm going to show you how they morphed it. I'm just getting the video.
Are we suggesting a repeating pattern here from what I'm looking at? So in terms of it, like a basic, fundamentally put a Pac-Man based.
Exactly. That's
Not
what I was. Is this
Pac-Man.
basically the free energies map, the square map? That
I wouldn't
remember I
use
broke.
Pac-Man because that ties way too much in a kind of virtual reality, and that
Well,
is not the actual nature of what it is.
Yeah.
I think more of the portals in
Reference
Enoch's
lens.
book.
Watch when Ceres starts doing some of his overlays on these maps with the Buddha brought, that Mandelbrot set that's shaped like the Buddha, and all he shows it's the way these portals line up and stuff. It's really crazy in the way it relates to the Book of Enoch.
Right,
Okay,
that's what
so
I was
that's
saying.
cool.
Like this was taking me back to when I was all into the free energy. His videos about the square Earth and the repeating sun and the star projector and all that stuff. I loved his work.
So can I interject? So this is more of a travel map as opposed to a reality map, which is reflective of portals. We're talking here. This is more what you're showing here is all.
Everything we live in is multi-dimensional. Our bodies, our minds, and the place we live.
The point is a little bit, we tend to think in edges, and then practically there are no edges. And there's, how do you explain that?
We limit ourselves.
In our thoughts, we limit ourselves. Yeah.
We are at least fourth dimensional beings seeing 3D. So we're already living in the fourth dimension. And I have a video myself. It's a bit like if something's in another dimension, a higher dimension, you might sense it, but you won't see it. You have to be in these higher dimensions to be able to see these things, and we just can't see them.
No, I grasp that one.
Right.
What I see on the screen is a repeating.
What Google Maps do. That's what I said before we came on air, or at the beginning. Google Maps know exactly what we're living in.
Yeah.
So
that's
all I'm saying is from the understanding that you have, is that a representation of the understanding, or more a feeling of what you can do in terms of travel? That it repeats like that, but actually in reality, it's more shaped.
The root of work is in reality in that I take the photograph, and when you actually zoom in the complete detail as far as you can go in Google Maps, you actually see your own location. You know your own neighborhood. It is all correct as the photo shows. In that sense, the empirical detail is for me reality. I just see it from the top down. And that's it. And as soon as I transform this in anything else than where it comes from, then I actually destroy reality, because everything gets twisted, especially in northwards or southwards. So in a way, I can't change this to anything else. It just comes as it is. And without that, I can't work any further. That is practically my foundation in how I perceive reality for what it is. The biggest photograph we can get, and that is how Google Maps actually shows it right in our face. But then that square is just cut off, and we think there's practically nothing beyond. But guess what? There's twice as much beyond, and probably way more. And this is where the flower of life grid actually ties in that you have in that grid a particular property that in east-west direction, if you have it orientated in the north-south direction, you only need one step in one square to end up with the circle inside that particular square again.
Can I just add something as well? That doesn't mean the colours are all like that. Ceres has put these colours in, so it shows it what it is. That doesn't mean all those colours are like that. He's just stuck those colours in.
Right.
The darker colours were for higher. the colors are for the water and they're lower.
Yeah, the colors are just as much as possible different, so you can actually see as much as possible detail. The more you zoom in, the more detail you get, so you need more colors to actually show the details in two-dimensional sense, that you can see.
When he zooms in, everything becomes squares.
Guys, could I ask a question? James here. Also, my Dutch is terrible, but hoe gaat het met jou, meneer? I could tell one of you guys is Dutch. But can you simplify it? I'm not big on the math, but can you maybe simplify it a bit in terms of the model? Like Adam was asking technicals, like what would you say emotionally about it, about where we live? Do we affect where we live, or is it like a Star Trek holodeck type grid system? That, like, how would you summarize it?
I would think, like in Genesis 1, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth as two separate creations, as two names. And the earth is what we know, it's where we walk on, but the heavens is confused in that the earth is made its center. And probably we or everyone or everything is the center between the two fields, two kind of electromagnetic fields touching each other, in where we are a toroidal field ourselves with that complete chakra system, what is also mentioned in several other civilizations, etc. in history. And if you ask me, the world itself is itself also a toroidal field, in that it ties into the flower of life and the tree of life, in where you have the same 7 chakra system as that particular double snake, what builds our body the same.
Kind of like the Fibonacci sequence, right? Included in the blueprints of how the creator meshed everything, designed everything.
All geometry and etc. What is everything is binding into this. Everything fits the square. That's the thing a bit. I haven't found anything yet what actually doesn't connect to this.
Right on. Thank you. I have a much better idea now. And it's the magnetic part of it is very intriguing. I mean, if you look at the way the sun and the moon work, and the tides and the salt water and just certain things, you know, there's a lot of credibility to that, as well as Enoch and the biblical truths. I'm a biblical cosmology believer. I think that, you know, there's a lot of instances in the book that would lend some credibility and evidence to what we're fighting for, right? Which is to figure out what it is.
What you see here is that particular yellow line that was my question. That is starting in the north, in that mountain range there, or in the circle, like somewhere in the middle. That is what I found one of the focal points in the north. That is the actual North Pole in the magnetic field. And it completely, and then I follow that field in its direction, and it goes up and then it comes down in the south. And that actually ties into how that field is flowing in the elevation data. So I probably found out how the North Pole actually focal point actually has a moving area in this mountain range. So far, I've seen from 2015 to 2019 that 19 is actually getting into the left corner of that region, and that particular southern magnetic pole is somewhere between Australia and Antarctic mountain, and that one you see here a little bit. That one I need to position a little bit better to find out if it actually ties into the north in where you see here the white circle. And how that, yeah, how all the magnetic fields are actually tied into
what
each
you're
other.
saying, Ceres, is the two, like the Antarctic pillars don't move. Nothing moves there, it's fixed. But the ones in the north, they move around. The magnetic part moves around. Electromagnetics.
Interesting.
Actually,
And that's something that had been talked about years ago in the UFO community, was the fact that magnetic north moves considerably over the years. So that's interesting. Well, one question I was going to ask you, Siri, have you found any evidence of the firmament or anything like above us that in this breaking this all down like you have?
So far, we have figured out somebody has figured out with, what was it called? Scalar waves.
Chris. Oh, right.
There,
Stop.
that there is a frequency field in where the waves are reflected in an instant, as far as I know how that works. And with that, he confirms us that there is at least an electric field obstructing a few things. And so far, I have the magnetic data up to 1,000 kilometers high, so I can actually figure out how that whole field is going from north to south, and figure that out how that actually from ground up to the highest scales is flowing, because this data is just available. It's just figuring out a way to actually look at it.
Hey, we've got Maria on with us, Ceres. 1 second. Hi, Maria.
Hi, sorry I'm late. I won't be late again. I just had so much. I had to get my hair. I had to get my kids. I had to get.
That's okay. Ceres is just finishing saying something, and we're going to listen a bit about Iron Realm, who are a media.
Oh, I love it. Hi, everybody.
And then maybe you can talk a bit about yourself afterwards and Astral Thief. I was going to turn you up because you're not very loud, but Ceres is just finishing talking about something. It's a few more minutes and then we move on, if that's all right, my darling.
Yeah, at the moment I'm still working out more lines. I need more data for in Blender. And yeah, that will take a while to actually work it out.
So Ceres, you mentioned magnetic data. Where are you getting that from for varying altitude?
I got a program from the World Magnetic Map, and where I can use GPS coordinates from where and an altitude from between 0 and 1,000 kilometers, from where I get the actual magnetic data in a three-dimensional direction. In their, what is it, Tesla value.
Okay.
And out of there, I kind of create a three-dimensional direction to pick out the next position of the line of where it goes, and follow the line through the magnetic field, and end up with an actual drawn line in Blender.
Wow.
And are you rendering all these by hand, sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the focal points are from the magnetic pillars, and there are 2 very visible and 2 others less visible. But I figured these are completely tied into 4 different magnetic fields. You can see in the bigger picture that there are 4 different particular directions. You have the upwards, up and down, and then east and west, and then north and south, and all directions have an RGB color value, and out of the direction it creates the color what belongs to the direction in 3-dimensional space. And you can see how north is, for example, pointing downwards mainly, and south is pointing upwards mainly. And then in the middle you have the exactly between the tropics, the blending layer between the two, as if everything happens between the tropics there, in up and down direction at least. And it's a kind of mixture. What is happening there? I'm not sure yet. I need way more time to actually research it, or computer time in that sense. But actually,
Ceres, do you think we should just pause there? We can talk about what we were going to talk about, and then if anybody wants to ask any more about that, we can come back to your work.
yeah,
Is that
sure.
all right?
Oh,
We go through the questions and then we can come back. If everybody wants to come back and ask Ceres questions, that's great.
Okay.
Ceres, play a bit of this video to show them what they did to morph the map. And then we're going to go on to Iron Realm and get into a discussion. And then if we go back to Ceres, that's great. Ceres for the videos.
Well, I just want to thank Ceres for putting in all this work. That is a tremendous amount of effort just to gather,
amazing.
file this.
Computers on all the time.
That's beautiful. It's like an autistic army. We have the flat earth people. They got the best researchers around because they got such a passion.
Yeah, thank you, Maria.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Well said.
He's coming now with it. All of it, Ceres. I can't remember it. Just the beginning bit. It's in the chat, Ceres.
Here somewhere.
I was trying to figure out,
Hang on.
in my mind, how Ceres explains it as the looping thing, right? Because I'm still trying to figure out how you fly and make a flight from LA to China, and to make things connect, in a physical.
Well, I'm always saying, take the physical point always in the middle.
Right. So what I did is I took a square, right, a basic cube, four-sided square, and then I just curve the corners in, right, enough just to make it so it appears like the globe model that Google is using, right, and then I superimposed a GPS accurate map that's actually the flight maps, right, because we were talking about the flight maps the other day, right.
Yeah.
And then what I figured is, you can see if I zoom in on it a little bit here, I'll rotate it slow, so I mean it's an accurate to scale, right, map of the flight path, right. So I was trying to figure out, well, how do you get from, say, wherever, why aren't there any flights across Antarctica and so forth? And they keep saying, oh, well, it's a slightly oblate spheroid, so that's kind of how I morphed the square and then laid the map on it, right.
Yeah, you did.
Right, and then the fourth dimensional thing came into it, is like when I started, scaling things up and down, right? So when I looked at the North Pole, when you go on Google Maps, Google Earth, and you zoom into the center of the North Pole and/or the South Pole, right? You always see this circle above it that is warped. It's always warped, right? So if I flip my ball I made, right,
Yeah.
to simulate theirs, and you go into Antarctica, you'll see that whatever, all that data from the flat map you have is being morphed, like you said, morphed into that single point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I want to say, how did they do that, and why are they doing that? Why is it always that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to answer the question. And then what happens is, I'll just take this, give you a little bit bigger screen here if I can. If you start changing the thickness, it's an inverted double-sided square. So if you start changing the thickness, watch what happens. The North Pole starts coming out of the top. So here's Antarctica inverted, right? And then it starts coming out again, right? It'll start flying, it'll come out until you end up with a pizza map, right?
Pizza.
Right? So you can infinity keep rolling it in and out, in and out, in and out of itself, right? You'll end up with an azimuthal equidistant map, right?
Right.
Eventually, if you scale it right, and just keep rolling and rolling and rolling, right? So that's what they've done. That's how they pulled it off. So that's why then in their pictures you end up with a square thing. So I thought that was interesting. That at least now I know what they're doing, right? Right? You can morph it inside and out of itself forever, right? And still end up with a mold. Right? And the flake paths are accurate, etc. Because it's a real map, right? So we're on the trail, right? Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
It's really annoying though, isn't it, as well? Because you're taking data that comes from them.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem, right? The data we have comes from their model, right?
It's put it in.
Yeah, you might not need to play it all, but it's just him showing how they did it.
We would certainly love to have you come on our show sometime, Ceres, and explain all this so we can get it as far around as we can, because this is some definitely eye-opening stuff. Get as many minds on this as we can.
Yeah, that was my idea as well. With the whole stuff I can gather the data, I can make it visible, but having the time to actually study all the details in there, there's so much more in it to find, actually, to figure out, I guess, and to see it. And I don't have the eyes to see it all,
Anyway, you got your idea basically from that, because it is a bit longer than that, but you've got the idea how they did it then. Anyway, these topics we talked about, but next, could Iron Realm Media say a bit more about themselves then? Because we've got 4 members on tonight.
Absolutely. Well, you've already heard me sort of come on and give my little spiel as to who we are and how we were founded. I want to actually pass the baton over to Walter James, either one of them. They've actually they've been in it a little bit longer than I have. I was more of an afterthought. So I'm going to let those two run with it and see where it goes.
You're never an afterthought, sir. You're that guy. Don't forget that. Josh does most of our production work when we're doing live shows. He is a phenomenal. He is a force to be reckoned with, and we appreciate everything Josh does for us, man. You're the guy. Yeah, we've been at this a while. James and I and Josh and Adam all met on Twitter doing this flat Earth craziness, trying to figure it out, trying to talk about it, trying to get secure in the knowledge. Debating people, meeting people with like minds. We all started DMing. We finally formed a little group. That group has grown. It has changed. It has morphed. We have added some people. Adam was a little bit later to the show. We also have 2 other guys that aren't here with us today that are pretty much center members. Rob is in Australia, and John is also there in the UK. And everybody has their contributions. Everybody has their area they approach this from. Some of us came at it from truth or backgrounds for sure. Most of us were. Some of us have high advanced scientific knowledge. Kind of our guy Adam is our resident mad scientist. Some of us have, just the backyard astronomer type thing. I've been doing astronomy, and I loved physics. I loved, I was the NASA fanboy growing up. I intended to get up there one day, or at least sit behind the controls of the panel and help them get up there one day. And I literally had believed the lie probably 6 or 8 months into fighting this thing with flat Earth. I mean, I was still trying to figure out how the floating pizza in space worked, and it just was falling apart left and right. I kept seeing all these horrible mistakes and floating heads in space. James has put out some great videos on some of the bad mistakes that NASA has made over the years. So it just, it kind of fell apart. We all got that that like mind going, met on Twitter, and decided that we would form a little group that could put out some information and present it to people and make them understand that, we're not a bunch of lunatics with tinfoil hats. We're just regular people with some questions that have finally kind of broken the spell that keep us all locked under, maybe turned off our TVs a little more than the average person, and finally started researching this thing together. And we kind of like to have a forum where people can come on, just average people. We meet new people on Twitter all the time, and they may not have an experiment they've done. They may not have a mind-blowing idea. They just are people who've decided to question this reality. We like to have those kind of people on. We certainly like to have people at Ceres level here that's doing some amazing technical stuff. We have our own guy, John Savage, that does his he does amazing work with gyroscopes. He's done some amazing stuff showing there's no movement to Earth. Our guy Adam here has done some amazing stuff with the moonlight temperature. James, why don't you hop in and kind of fill in on your background and how you approach this whole Iron Realm craziness?
That was
Hi,
well
James.
said. Hi, how you doing, Maria? Good to see you
Good,
again.
James.
So I'm James, Full Armor OG. I'm Canadian.
Hi, Jim. Sorry.
Hey, no problem. Hi. What's your name,
The
sir?
Astral Thief.
Oh, nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure. So, yeah, I'm about everybody's age. I just had a birthday. Josh and I are born a couple of days apart, so you can wish Josh with the magic voice a happy birthday. Happy birthday again, Josh.
And to you, James.
Happy birthday,
Thank you.
James.
Boy, I'm nervous. It always gets me how
Happy
nerve-wracking
birthday,
the
so I can
first
get my,
30 seconds are.
Get my microphone on. Happy birthday to everybody. Don't be nervous. You're with friends.
I know it passes always, but there's always that little slight tinge when you have to expose yourself, right? So, yeah, I met these brothers, family members now, about in 2014, early 2015 on Twitter, and I've been a truth hunter for years, and I was a very proud man at times, and life had different plans for me, so I battled a big illness and had some deaths and some big things happen to me, and it really opened me up to the real truth and more of how the world is and how it's been manipulated from the beginning. And Iron Realm is just really kind of changed my perception. I feel that there's a lot of information in our realm, and a lot of harsh talking and fighting and bad voices and accusations. And one of the things that I remember going in and saying, let's do this as a team and as a group, and let's shine our differences and our uniqueness as opposed to fighting. Let's try and make this about information, about emotion, and about waking people up. And then it just grew from there into like hanging out every day, learning about each other. I mean, you guys have a group, there are ups and many highs, and there are very big lows too that can happen. And yeah. And
with mutual respect with all the people that are helping us. We're not boss of any of these people. Some of them are in our Facebook group. Some of them have joined us because of the Hangouts, but we all come together, even with different models, different everything. We're all just trying to work together. Each one's work overlaps with the other one somewhere along the line, so it just is like this big puzzle. And
it gives you a sense of accountability too, which is really great, especially in our community. To have some true trust and accountability is really good. So my flat Earth story, it gets a little crazy from here, and I don't like to focus on it so much anymore. But I definitely don't have the kind of circumstances in my life right now. I went from being top of the world finances to next to nothing, so riches to rags, the opposite. Best thing ever to have happen though. But here's how the flat Earth aspect started, and here's, I guess, what I'm known for now is I by chance, it was Oscar season, and I was just sick of the mainstream people going, "Oh, best winner, winner, winner," and so I had a chat with some of the guys in Iron Realm, and I found a video that was unbelievably good. I thought at explaining a general, idea of flat Earth. So I said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And gave it a name and put on a fancy graphic, and it just went viral. And from there, I actually stepped up because I feel that when those opportunities come, you can take them or you can leave them and let it go. And I feel that the reason that video took off and the reason that I've got subscribers was to lead me here to this simple fact of being involved in a community to wake people up. I know this world is already lost, but I'm going to do everything I can with my brothers here and my mates and all of you kind people that are pushing truth to wake people up. That's what we got to do. And that's about it for me. I've everything else. I mean, I think Adam should tell his story. He's got a great story, and I miss Rob, and I wish John was here. And you guys will have to meet them and hear their story as well one day. And in closing, just I'm grateful for having me on and hearing us and being so kind to Josh and everyone. Thank you.
Oh, very nice of you. It's very nice to hear from you as well. So, who was it, Adam?
Yeah, that's me.
Give it to us.
Well, yeah, like you say, we're from a diverse group, so I suppose I'm from a more academic background. I suppose, how would you put it? I teach postgraduate students, so those with degrees, I train
Nice.
postgraduate level with stuff, as well as being a full-time farm assistant, pharmacy owner. So I'm quite a busy guy. Got into this stuff way back when Jerem was first starting, and contacted him and was in touch with him early on, and got into the confusion with Jerem in terms of curvature maths early on and stuff, and kind of got into flat Earth like that. I actually was introduced to it by I was into kind of civil liberties stuff, a bit of activism and stuff, and one of the guys there mentioned flat Earth because he knew I was a bit of a geek. I suppose that's a fair way of summarizing me, and said, go and look at flat Earth. So off I went, and that kind of got him into it, and I said that followed into starting to see it was on YouTube, and got into the curvature maths, and that's kind of been a bugbear of mine for a couple of years now, hopefully culminating in last week's IRM show, where I think we put it to rest, where we did unveil a fully accurate curvature formula that works for whatever distance. I could probably bore you that another time. So I kind of got into that, and it was my initial formulas of that introduced me to Rob and John, and it was an absolute pleasure to meet like-minded, if that's the correct phrase. So like I say, we're very different in the way we think, but people who all had issues with curvature and other globe issues and other conspiracy stuff as well. So it was great to receive real hard, solid criticism from those guys, and through some really good, honest, friendly debating what we were talking, we made good friends, and then they introduced me to the other guys over there, Walt, James, and Josh, and then I was kindly invited in to the Iron Realm. I was asked if I'd be willing to join, and with great pride I did. Do you know what I mean? They were absolutely fantastic bunch of guys that are.
Oh, nice to hear.
Yeah.
What a nice, yeah, brilliant. Really nice guys. Really happy for you.
Yeah, and we like I say, and the real pleasure. I mean, I've got a university background, so I come up from a housing estate, so I've my life experience have grown and grown and grown as you do, but it's been an absolute pleasure to meet people that are, like I say, very diverse, but still all hold core values that I think probably everybody sat here today holds similar ones. So yeah, joined the Iron Realm, kind of got into the spirit of things. We've been doing things for a year or so now, and fantastically low ratings on YouTube. It's been an absolute pleasure to see people ignore us. But strangely, we've gathered some. Yeah,
about how many shows you have, what you do.
I think the boys have probably got the
how many
numbers.
times
We do a show every Friday night and have been doing continuously for over a year now, haven't we, guys? I mean, what are the numbers?
Josh is probably the guy to go to.
I think we've been on Friday nights. I would say consistently Friday nights for 9 months at the very least. Every Friday. Yeah, every Friday for 9 months, no less than.
How can people support you?
However they feel most comfortable, I would say. You can find us on YouTube, of course, Iron Realm Media. We're on Twitter, Iron Realm Media. We do have a PayPal you can donate to if you want. I'm sure there's a link around somewhere. Maybe on our website, we do have a ironrealmmedia.com
We're having
website.
some issues website related right now, so we're about to switch over to a new thing. So yeah, right now probably Twitter is the best place to find us.
I forgot about
Twitter too.
And I would add to that, like, I think financially we're not really asking for that right now. What we'd like is viewers. We need, you know, what would be sick, Maria, is if you could make sure if you can, hit up one of the shows and text one of your girlfriends or friends and say, hey, come support these guys. I know they're real, and let's see if we can get their ratings up a bit.
We don't want to sound paranoid, but we've had like viewers that have been with us literally since day one who continuously tell us that our notifications don't go out, that we're live on Fridays, that they have trouble finding us even though they're subscribed to us on Fridays. You know? So, you know, take that what you will.
Notifications not going out.
You got more viewers than it says. Trust me.
That's also something we've heard. So, hey, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, believe in
know
yourself.
Appreciate it.
That's one of the things I really like about Iron Realm Media, just real quick to finish off, is that as complete strangers from all over the plane, we do manage to somehow still get together, coordinate at least one time a week to all get together and really, this is going to sound so gay, but love each other. I mean, we were strangers.
That's
what it's all about.
Have bonded and have
I'm glad we've come across you guys then. It is. Love each other.
Love is the key, baby. Love is the key.
The royal command.
Oh, do you know something? I know that this might seem a bit silly now, but I'm coming back. We have to have a hug for that. We have hugs on our group. I've got to get
That
my
sounds
camera
awesome.
back.
I love hugs. I'm a big hugger.
On that note, I think we should wait for our cameras to come back and we'll have a hug. Whoever's coming back.
Everybody.
1 second, let's wait for my camera. Come on, camera.
It's all about feeling good and being happy and in our natural state.
Can anybody? There we go. Yay! There's a big flat Earth hug. Yay!
Absolutely.
It is our natural state.
But I know James is back there with his arms wide open.
Hey, my arms are open as wide as they can go.
So, first hug together.
My arms are open, my knees are weak.
So I think
Iron Realm, what's next for your next show?
Well, really,
more
once I heard Karen and Ceres and everybody talking to Ty from flatrevival.com.
Yeah, we met him the other day.
The light bulb went off above my head, and I thought maybe what's next for Iron Realm Media in the distant future might be some online magazine and some print magazine, because Walter here has some experience there too, so we could be probably pretty well utilized in a magazine form. So that's something I've been toying with the idea. Most immediately, probably starting, if not here within the next 12 hours, probably sometime by Friday, we'll be starting a new show on the Truth Frequency Network from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Central Standard Time. So Walt and I will go there.
We should put you in touch with Aaron. He's got a project called Lumen Project. about.
We had Aaron on 2 weeks ago.
We stole Aaron. I saw Aaron on your show, Karen, and I thought, man, I really need to get Aaron on Iron Realm Media. Yep. So we had him on the next week. We've already been in touch with Aaron, so yeah, he's in our back pocket as well. We can't wait to have
great stuff.
Is that Iron Coin?
Aaron. That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
And Flat Earth Coin. Yeah.
Podcast.
Yeah, the Iron Coin just tie-in is brilliant.
I would just add to the. Go ahead.
You just add. What were you going to say?
Oh, I would just add that. I mean, the idea for something in your hand, like actually like a magazine or actual flat Earth literature or merchandise, it's something that's very overlooked right now. A real magazine written by flat earthers, made by flat earthers, you know, that kind of cut away from all the would work. I think there's a need.
The classifieds, that would be a good section, you know.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we'll just move along a bit, but we can come back and talk about any of these things again. You can carry on in a minute. But Maria, hello, Maria. How are you today?
Hi, Maria.
I'm so blessed to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Iron Realm, and me to be here. She gave me 3 purple hearts, and I was so happy. I'm just so happy. You know, I usually hang out with Poncho Pete, and I thought you had to be British to be on the show.
No, we have members from everywhere.
That's great. I love it.
No,
I suppose there does seem to be more English and American flat earthers around than anywhere else.
Yes, I get his posts to Google Plus for a long time now. So I've been checking, you know, I don't know.
Maria, do you want to explain what you do a little bit again?
I remember your name.
Sure. My name is Maria. I was, when I first found out about Flat Earth, it was the Morgile on Art Bell, and I was 100% in it overnight. I made a video right away. I wrote blogs in my blog every single day. I addressed them to people like Trump. I Alex Jones. This is before any of them mentioned ever, you know. I was always writing journal. One journalist really hurt my feelings. He made a video. I had sent him a tweet, you know, explaining Flat Earth, you know, just a little, why don't you check out Flat Earth? And my tweet on his video, and he mocked me. And he says, I don't want your kind. And he blocked me. And he made a video, what was his name? Gay guy, David Seaman. And ever since then, I fell out of I went back in the closet. Politics. I follow the news. I do. So I started, you know, really getting back into that. And every now and then I would throw in a political cartoon about Flat Earth. I've done maybe about 5 the past 6 months. And, you know, I'll always address them to you know, politics. So, you know, whoever is the top dog, you know, wherever I go, I send them Flat Earth stuff. And I'm always talking about it. But I haven't really come back out of the closet. I would love to come back out of the closet, guys, and make cartoons. And make Flat Earth cartoons. You know, I would really.
Yeah, they're really good. That's how I knew you, Maria. That they're really good. You had a good thing going there, and yeah, just keep on.
Yeah, I would love to make Flat Earth cartoons, and that's where I come from. And I follow the news every day. I'm a big news reader, so I'm the person in politics and news. You know, like that guy's in academia. You know, I'm in politics and news. I can tell you all the news, all the Flat Earth sightings I see in the news. I pay attention. I pay attention when, you know, Donald Trump pronounces globalist. I pay attention when he took off his glasses and looked at the solar eclipse. I paid attention to that, you know, and I still listen to a lot of, you know, Alex Jones, stuff like that. And today I sent Alex Jones like in his live chat. I explained, I said, look, you know, if you're a flat earther, you're not going to believe all this. If you're a flat earther, right, you believe, you see reality for what it is. Like, we can be consultants of reality because we know what reality is. And these globe heads around us, they're like lost in space. So you can lie to them, you can fool them, you can put a news story on TV and they'll just, because everything's fantastical, because we're spinning, right? So it's like they can't grasp reality, but I can. So I was like, Alex, you know, flatties, we don't believe in the fantastical. You know, we believe in the simple. You know, evil is, you know, right? We don't believe in the fantastical. This guy from the 32nd floor shot all these people, and his, you know, his brother says he was never into guns. I mean, like the news today, you know, and I can see the news. I read the news with my flat earth eyes, and I can see what's truth and what's not, what's being puffed up, you know, because I know reality. And you know, that's why flat earth has kind of given me the edge. You know what I mean? But ever since that guy, Dave Seaman, made fun of me, I never really got public about it. I stopped, and I do things like stealthily. I'm always sending Trump flat earth posts, but I'm always like sneaking it in. Like I never put hashtag flat earth. It's always, oh, look, Donald, your name was on this weather balloon that went up, you know, Asian space. They said, real Donald Trump, look at this. Fuck you. Remember? Asian space took a balloon up there with their fake curvature. Well, I sent that to Donald Trump and I said, look, Donald, your name is on that card, but look, there's a mistake, you know, and I put it out there like that. So I'm not attracting attention. I'm not attracting trolls. I'm not getting people to freak out. No one, it's like I'm doing everything by stealth, you know, passing things along, but kind of like stealthily, you know what I'm saying? Until, you know, and
Right.
I just don't want to be mocked by my peers, you know?
Thank you for that, Maria. Well, I'm glad you do keep an eye on it for us.
Yeah, I do. I'm that section for you. I'll let you know anything.
Well, you're definitely welcome to be on our show anytime you have the time, Maria.
I would love to.
Certainly.
Hey, this is a good coming together tonight. Hugs
Maria,
and all.
Can I alluded earlier that I'm a pharmacist, and I'm the pharmacist and the medical professionals, and
yes.
I have great fun in stating to them that the earth is flat, because when I put it to them, and you seem an eloquent person yourself, as highly educated, it's actually quite interesting. I'm finding that when you put it to other well-educated people, when it's coming from a credible source, that suddenly the mockery that the media presents isn't there in a one-to-one situation. And I've yet to be decried. I go on Twitter, no problem, but in a one-to-one situation, I've never been decried. Yeah, it's been okay.
Just
Tell
say
me more.
something
What?
on that. I got myself in the Star newspaper, the Daily Star, and they picked the most horrible pictures about what they did. It must have taken 50 pictures, but Mark Sargent was really happy because it made a main paper without opposition. They didn't say, oh, well, all the scientific reasons why it couldn't work. Yeah, they took the mickey out of me a bit, but they didn't change my words.
Nice.
They didn't fight it. They put it out. Okay, maybe look a bit mad.
Yeah, people with
But they
degrees,
put it out.
they're definitely a threat. You said you had degrees and you're a professor. I mean, people like that are definitely a threat because you're part of the institution. They're institutions. You know what I mean? You're like part of the, you know, you would be considered, you know, a threat. They'd probably go after you, and, you know, right? Because they always go after the credible sources.
Mm-hmm.
I think I get more.
Let's tell the truth.
They've got him buried so far.
They'll kill you. You're like a top scientist, and you're saying this, they'll kill you. Yeah.
I don't disagree. I think if you start standing up and shouting from the rooftops, but I think you would be surprised at how receptive. So if you were to step out of flat Earth talk and stray into the medical and all the controversies and questions we have about mainstream medicine, I think you wouldn't be surprised that when you raise it, it's not necessarily debated as false. It's tried to be avoided. Yeah, I mean, I've raised it at a number of levels, of personal levels, and also at higher strategic levels, and I've always been ignored. The solid comments I've given have been ignored, and that's just the way it is. It's a bit, you know, you can't change things from the bottom. You have to shake the bottom. Is the thing. I think that's what Flat Earth's hopefully going to do.
Oh yeah.
Is shake the bottom as opposed
from all areas, the bottom, the top, the left, the right.
The reason we're here as well is because we wanted to do open researching, making a better community. Hopefully, more and more and more people just join in somehow.
Yeah.
like you, just to try and get it more out there in the open, you know, because it's happening now.
Yeah, this is a steady place. We're not spinning. We don't have bills here. We don't have, you know, crazy, you know, we're flat. We know what reality is, you know, we're not consumed by consumerism anymore. We're not consumed by the cable TV anymore. We're not, you know what I mean? We're free.
We're not, yeah,
It's
exactly.
peaceful here.
Yep.
Exactly.
And we're
Can
solid.
I just go
and
to Astral Thief? He's the last one who hasn't talked a little bit about himself, and then we just carry on talking.
Yes.
Hello, Astral. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Evening.
He's English,
Evening.
but lives in Denmark.
Yeah. Adam, actually, I've got a question for you. You sound like you're from the Midlands.
Aye, Nottingham.
Exactly. And that's
You sound a bit more Manchester.
Exactly, yeah.
Have
you got
the Midlands.
Have you got a Nottingham shirt on there on your icon?
Yeah, it's a Forest shirt, mate. I was actually sat opposite Andy Cole when that was taken. Just
okay. Oh, nice. And I'm in the presence of someone who sat opposite Andy Cole.
yeah, that was enough. I never ate from his fish and chip shop, but
he scored a lot of goals. No, anyway, we diverge.
Yeah, sorry.
We're getting off the subject, I should say. Yeah, what do you want to know? Maria's talking.
Just explain a little bit about maybe your flat Earth journey, because we've just started to have a few hangouts with Astral, but none of these people here really know you. So just explain a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I actually got into the whole flat Earth thing by way of Admiral Byrd. And yeah, I was into the Antarctic for God knows, months and months and months. I couldn't get enough of it, you know. Fascinating. So I got into it that way. Anyway, when I did find out, it was, yeah, that was what I needed to truly waken up, if you know what I mean. That was the catalyst. I've been more or less awake all the time, but that was, boom, it drew me to where I needed to go.
That's what happens. And now we're all driven, aren't we?
Yeah. I think this is meant to be that people find each other.
I'm waiting for my orders. I'm waiting for my orders, Karen.
I think that's something I waited for, and you don't get them. There ain't nobody giving orders, and that's the beauty of flat Earth. There ain't no orders. You just got to go out there, and make your own up.
Yeah, I think that's the good thing about these groups, that you seem to just find them, you know, and everybody seems to find the piece of the puzzle that they're missing. That's how I feel, anyway.
It doesn't matter how smart the gamers are. The wise will find each other anyway.
Hey, well said.
Well said.
Who was that quoted?
Him, I think.
That's Ceres 2017.
I love that.
Could I ask, and maybe it's the fact that we're on a show, so I'm curious too, but since we've all met tonight, can I find a little bit about you, Ceres, and the host as well? I'd love to hear your guys' story, Karen.
Yes.
Okay. Well, made a bet making it sound like it was a money thing. I did make a bet, but there was no money. It was a bit like she was going on about Nibiru, and I thought, oh, well, I'm going to debunk that because it came up after 9/11, and I thought, well, not something else over there. And then suddenly I thought, no, I'm going to debunk it. And then you watch that first movie and then or video, and you go, doing, 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 doing. I've got 4 children of my own. Sort of been a mother most of my life, but I've had my own social club here where I live. People, and then it's about a year ago, I suppose, I met up with Ceres as a Facebook, and Ceres started doing the data, and I started doing more of, you know, the posts, private hangouts. We were on private hangouts for a long time because coming open about our work because it's so different to everyone else's. And then suddenly through something else, Jaren, live, and haven't really looked back. And hopefully are creating a community, a drama-free community, and new friends that we give hugs to.
Mm.
Is that enough?
That's awesome.
And
Yeah.
Ceres, and now Ceres, you know, he's amazing. Over to Ceres.
Where is he?
He's coming. It's your turn, Ceres. You're muted.
No longer. Yeah, it's actually a pretty long story. For the curiosity of everything, it began actually with one book what I read around my 17th or something. But 9/11 was a particular trigger that made me actually run a website, 911.nl. Out of there came a little bit strange situation in my life, and I had to pay all the traffic for all the material I was actually providing, and that ended up with a bill that I couldn't sustain anymore because I just didn't have anything to invest in it further than I just normally have. And eventually, through a whole range of conspiracy stuff, the whole anonymous thing with Occupy and all that alien stuff altogether, there's just a huge fiction in there, what is particularly stimulated as most views as listed views in YouTube and such. So yeah, and then eventually through Facebook, I came across just some post talking about flat Earth. Yes, that was really something. Okay, well, let's watch it. You know, that's something new. And then out of that, I came eventually on a forum of Eric Dubay, in where I proposed a particular experiment to figure out what is actually happening in the South.
Wow.
Because
I love Eric Dubay.
It could be like in the North. Wasn't that true? You know, what is the reality there? I can see the North, but I can't see the South. So let's figure it out. And just for suggesting it or something, I got blocked on his forum, and I had something like, okay. Well, that turned me a little bit off of Flat Earth. And then I came through Free Energy, eventually on Santos Bonacci's work, and out of the end of his videos, he came into Flat Earth again, and that, for me at least, I came across again pretty hard through his work on Flat Earth. And out of there, I discovered a few months later the free energy material. And that brought me really to think about the whole concept of what flat then is, because that is then indeed out of the three-dimensional thinking, out of the box. And by mentioning his material on the Sun and Moon group, where it just wasn't connected yet, I just was a visitor there. I got blocked through one of the previous admins.
Not me. I didn't do it.
And what is it, a week or so later, I got invited back by Karen.
Change the admin.
Yeah. And that was the group was then based on recording all the with photos, GPS location and direction and everything, to figure out what the sun actually does and the moon. because it's the Sun and the Moon group for real people who record the stuff. And as a programmer, I had really the question of how then do you actually put it together to figure it out, what you actually see. Because you can imagine a lot, but let's do it a little bit more structural, you know. And out of that, I had created a website to actually record all these images to put it on the map. Out of using simply the Google Maps application, I figured out what was actually in there. And out of there, the whole photographic and elevation spatial construct came as an idea of what it presented. And that's what we brought here eventually. And now I'm working on what is happening in the sky with the electromagnetic field, and figure out how that actually ties into this.
Wow. Have you guys
And
thought
that's
of writing your book?
Have you got what?
Write
Have
a
you
book.
decided to write a book about all your experiences and your learnings and stuff? You know, like a book?
Not yet, actually, but
That's a good idea.
You know, to spread it around. Flat earthers will buy it, right? They want to know what you know how, they're going to want to buy it.
Mind you,
That's a good
Ceres is
idea,
still
Maria.
rendering and doing Blender and making things. And I think he wants to make, I'm not sure if he's made his little video, he wants to make another one. Then he's going to write something today. And yeah.
Actually, if anybody knows an animator that can do cartoons, pass them along to me. That's what I'm really looking to partner up with, someone that can do that.
That's right. Yeah.
I got the
Maria!
equipment, you know? I got
Oh,
the
you
equipment.
actually like
I
you
have
can
graph
so,
tablets.
really? Okay.
I can do, I can do paint, I can do crosshatch, I can do fill, I can do any style you want. I did a good Fepe. I did a good Fepe, the penguin.
I mean, okay. Well,
I can do
just,
perfect
When
Fepe.
you put
Even
people
better than
together.
IPSs. I can do even better than IPSs.
okay. Well, send me a message because I have something huge to work on.
Okay.
Then
Hey,
great.
Okay,
Thank
for
you.
fun, yeah. For fun. Yeah,
I can paint as well.
Right on. Well, let's work together then.
But it's always good.
Sounds
It's always
like
good to
meeting
put
of the
people
minds.
together.
This is one of mine. This
Yeah.
here.
Hire a flatty day.
Adam is very familiar with the project as well. It's just that I like I mentioned earlier, I got the break with the video, so my channel kind of went viral. So I took that, so meaning that I try and put something out every week and run with it. So that, but I don't know what I was doing. So I just learned video editing all this year. Like I come from a sound designer background and can make tunes and stuff pretty well, but I've had to learn all this Adobe stuff, and one of the projects that I've wanted to work on requires animation. So, but I don't want to reveal it here because I want to work with everyone.
No, keep it
but
to
Adam,
yourself.
you know the one I'm talking about, right? The animation.
Business,
I
keep it
do.
to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, someone,
Okay.
take
I
it.
will do that.
And I'd love to have helped, but I have a few talents, but they're certainly not in the artistic direction. It's it's not one of my skills, sadly.
South Park style
Talk to you and
make particular drawings and such. You make good scans of it, and you can actually animate that stuff in Blender, for example.
Awesome.
Two-dimensional flat one, just moving your make them more.
Sorry, Astral, you were showing us one of your paintings?
Yeah, my screenshot there is actually one I painted. Where is it? This.
Oh
I like
wow,
that.
that's beautiful.
What?
That's really good.
It's based on Banksy, Banksy style.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I wanted a bit of more colour in it, so I'll put grey. Yeah. Oh well, it's been painted over as well, that apartment.
Make sure you send Walt an email too for the magazine. That's great stuff, man. Great stuff.
Thank you.
Yes, please do.
Anyway, we're here because of a big shock. They've lied to us completely. Nothing is the way
nothing
it
is
is.
evil. And
It's
flat
a
earthers are the only ones in this world that know how evil these people are, because everybody else is blind and they're
They are.
naive.
Can't
But we're
believe
not.
how many people just don't want to see it.
Yeah, we're not. We're
I
not
mean, I know
naive. I
we've
can see.
got.
You know?
I don't think it's about people's ages. It's a time. Like a lot of people woke up like January through 2016.
Yeah, we're in an
Then all
age.
of us.
We are in an age, because it's happening, and it's been happening for quite a few years now, where more and more people are waking up to all sorts of revelations, you know. It's been
Sitting on
one
the
of
panel,
It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty, you know.
that you're slightly more higher vibration, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know right from wrong. And I don't believe fantastical, and I don't take things on faith. I have to check out for myself. And if I can't see it for myself, and there's too many holes, it's just not true.
I love that you're
That's
so
it.
excited, Maria. Thank you.
I know, right?
You know, I actually feel good vibrations coming from you, honestly.
Me too. I feel it from you. I think it's your smile. You know, when you smile, it's like I get happy. I feel like you're smiling at me, and I get happy. You know.
I'm smiling at the world.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, because even if the world is not right out there, you do have a piece. You know, I think a lot of it is maybe a lot of the people here on the panel also know themselves. I think as well.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening, that we are beginning to learn more about ourselves, a lot more.
Yeah.
We're surrounded by evil. We're surrounded by evil and just blind.
It's that they have hidden us. We are.
It's a lot of people, you know, that you got to wake up.
Yeah, I think those that do know themselves have a role, particularly at the moment, to play. And it's not, as we alluded to earlier, about seeking fame and fortune. It's about just guiding people.
Right.
It's not about shouting loudly. It's just about
Yeah,
guiding
it's
people.
leave the ego at the door.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to work if we've got big egos. It's because we want to help.
It pains me to see other people still believe in the globe Earth, and I tell everyone close to me. I sent my dad Eric Dubé's book. I sent my uncle Eric Dubé's book before he passed on. I just really, you know, try to pass it on. It's painful for me to be close to someone. And
well, it's even more wicked. I mean, I know that other people may have found this out for themselves, but Artis is in the chat room chatting away. He's just said, did they, you know, there's a 70s magazine on flat earth. So he's found more magazines on flat earth. But what we've realized is that in the year 1900, you went to prison if you said you lived on a ball. Then we had all these electric cars, things with even like wind turbines, the whole thing. We could have, some of these cars and vans and things could go 120 miles an hour and go for hours just on whatever. And there were sun panel ones and ethanol. And then at the end of that, the 1960s, we turned into a ball. It happened in the 60s.
It's amazing.
Television.
That's amazing.
And
they lied about everything. They lied about all our history, everything. They just made it up.
But only from, say, 50, 60 years ago, not 400 years ago. So none of us in a short period of time. We managed to do it.
I think the understanding of people, as I think me and the guys chatted about it on the show in relation to the Middleton map. I think 100 years ago it was quite clear that the general consensus was it was a flat plane, and that the globe myth was still being instructed into the masses. Whilst it may well have been held in academia as a fact, it wasn't held by the masses, and that was plain to see by some of the newspaper cuttings that John posted as well. And I think you're right, it's not until the 60s and mass media, mainly via the television and print, just keep perpetrating the globe as the truth. And as they say, if you repeat a lie often enough,
It's almost like their brand, hey? They just want to keep pushing their brand down your face, and that's what they do. Brand, 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 globe, globe, globe.
And they don't just do this to the masses. They do this in their rituals to children. You know, they mess with kids' minds. They do experiments. You know, they hurt kids. I mean, it's just, it's not just us. You know, they really hurt people.
Look what they've done to our birth certificate. It's a death certificate. They make millions of pounds out of us, and then they say they've got no money, and they charge us taxes.
Yeah, and you have to pay to get your father's name on the birth certificate now. You have to pay a paternity fee, affidavit. You know, I didn't pay it, and my middle daughter says father unknown, and I couldn't believe they did that to me. Just, it was $20 or something, or 100, but 20 to 100. I can't remember, but I said I'm not gonna pay this. They're not gonna do this to me, and they did.
Yeah,
So
kind of how the Revelation explains it. Being shut out of the community. Kind of like that.
They don't like you. They don't like you, and they have a plan. You know, they have a new world order plan, and they've been, you know, and they all work together, and they're all compromised. They've either been, you know, taken out of jail for crimes and compromised, you know, or put. And they're.
The funny thing is, it's powerless. Essentially,
you know, sorry. I feel that all these, you know, attacks and all this kind of, I call it fear mongering. It's like everywhere you look, you know, this has happened, that's happened.
Every day.
They're doing this, in my opinion, it's so that they can then, oh, we need more police, obviously, get more police.
Take away our guns, yeah.
And then, you know, before you know it,
they make things happen, and then they tell you they've got the solution for it, but that's what they wanted.
Exactly, problem, reaction, solution.
Everyone's being messed with.
We wanted
Everyone's
the Patriot
being messed
Act
with by these people, the globalists. They're, you know, globalists.
Yeah, bull-lists.
Globalists.
Bull.
Hey guys, globalists. That's how you gotta say it. Oh, and another thing, I was thinking we should all have a secret handshake, and it should be like this, like a secret handshake, you know, like that.
No, we don't. You know, there we're going wrong.
Warp's already got that covered with D-Mobile.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, let me send you the video. Hang on, I'll show you.
It's like a secret handshake, you know, like the evil have their secret handshakes. Well, we can have them too. You know,
smells a little Masonic.
You meet up, and if you don't
I was thinking the same thing.
You're not part of the gang.
There it is.
Handshake, you know, like a little flat.
Yeah. I agree.
I have a question for Ceres. Did you see the Dutch banker, the Ronald de Boer interview? If you did, thoughts?
I've met him personally. The funny thing was he gave a lecture just before I was with Frans Hesseling next as a program in the program talking about flat Earth to the public, and he just went before us. So I actually met him.
Wow. And I mean, I loved it because I could understand him firsthand, right? You know, I don't speak well, but I grew up, my adopted parents are Dutch. So his interview really, really intrigued me. And hearing that you met him, what do you think? Legit? Like he went through it? What's your thoughts, if you can?
Well, yeah. First of all, I would think that's a heavy shit to step out. That you actually dare to take this step. You know, and that risk you're taking there, you know, with that culture. Okay. So yeah, in that sense, I would say he's pretty legit in how he explains everything, how it works. I'm only not sure what his next step is about the news bank thing, what he is working out or something. is working in something new as a new value system. I'm not sure what it actually is. It's kind of that people invest in it as, and then at some point there is enough capital to actually work with as a bank, and then invest in the right thing, like Triodos does.
And this is his new work. He's trying to maybe make. Oh, good.
As the account owner, you actually have an actually kind of a shareholder.
Mm. Mm.
That's what I think.
He was Doge. He died apparently. That's how he got out, right? So that was an amazing story.
It was.
Is one of you going to play a video?
I sent it over. I don't think I can make the sound work for some reason. I was having trouble.
Right, okay. Maybe Ceres will play it then. We always ask Ceres.
He's that guy?
He's that guy for you guys,
Ceres.
right? That's what I was thinking.
Series will always play it.
We're all like copies of each other, but we each know different things. All flat earthers told every other flat earther everything we know, we would be unstoppable. As you know, we would know everything.
Right. That's what they're trying to prevent, is for us all figuring it out together. That's what they're trying to stop.
Yeah, that leads me on to the thought idea of like a kind of a world flat earth book where everyone bang throws their thing down, and then it just goes like a kind of a chain letter thing, but it's just a book.
Yeah.
Everyone writes in this book.
I've got some chapters ready for you.
Like a flat earth Bible, kind of.
Exactly.
All our history, and it's not just going to be a flat earth like book, but it's constantly going to be changing, like the history and everything.
Good. Yeah, exactly. That could
Look
be
at that.
idea.
Who's that handsome fella there on the left?
Your left or my left?
Ready to
both.
Play Series.
Oh, that's the handshake. I love it.
We got a flat earth out here. Well, I have made it to my first flat earth. Meet up here. This is the Lucky Lab. Hawthorne in Portland, Oregon. There's the organizer, Chris, back there. He's an awesome dude. He organized this craziness. Marvel with his P900 doing some video down the street, showing a building 2.5 miles away. Looks like it's right here in front of us. Here we go. This is the Marvel. Uh-oh, that's a Marvel. Here we are. Hi, everybody. Here he is. I'm just making a video for our show tomorrow. All good. Yeah, we're live every Friday, Flat Earth Friday. Y'all check us out. I'm in the meeting. Check out the Marvel's channel. The Flat Earth Offensive. You know all about it. You've seen the video. Here first, we can go here. All right, do we need to adjust this thing because the light's off again? I don't know. I'm not. That sounds really good. All right, over here. There it is. Is that it? Here we go here. Yeah, it's like they're going to go You're flat. I'm so flat. They call me flat man. Yeah, they changed Hey, I'm here from South Louisiana. I didn't come here just for me, though, but I am here from South Louisiana. So, hey, it's even flat down there. It's flat here. It's flat. I'm the D-Marvel? I am the ultimate. Two? D-Marvel 1. Oh, see, I'm so bad. It's all good. Soccer count. That's an inside joke. That was for you, Jay.
meeting other people who know that this isn't really that crazy of an idea and look at it. New people here who have no clue. People who are sort of against it. I'm not going to say names, but everybody can meet up and talk and find out that we're not all that. Some of us are. Just want people to ask you questions about what's going on around us and what we might be the future going on. Check it out. So, why you like comment? You can do that on our channel too. IRL me. Short and sweet. We're going to cut it short. Everybody's trying to get a little drink on, have some fun, relax, get drunk. Don't say anything, keep looking up, keep looking out, and keep it flat.
Hey, keep it flat.
Keep it flat. That's it. Keep it flat. I see he's doing that in all his videos now, so we're spreading it around for sure.
When was that, Walt? That was
when I was in Oregon.
Glasses.
Like in July? Yeah, July.
Yeah, so before the summer, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. I met a lot of great folks out there. I met Chris, he's got the Flat Earth Oregon, and then Dee's starting the whole Flat Earth Washington thing. Miss Carolyn Gutman Day, they're the ones that got behind the whole billboard project there and got that animated billboard during the eclipse while it was happening in Oregon there. So I'm sure millions of people that were traffic bound on the interstate got to see the Flat Earth message for a little while. So yeah, they're doing some great stuff up there in the Northwest. That's what we're trying to do, is spread that whole get together, the meetup idea. That to me was just eye-opening. I mean, we had been doing this hangout thing for 2 years almost, privately and as a show, but face to face and the actual energy in that room, it was we can do this thing. When you see that energy, feel that energy in that room with people face to face, it's a whole different energy than when it gets transferred through all these electric wires. It's amazing. Meetups, I think, are going to be the key to breaking this whole thing open.
Actual face to face.
Yay, Maria's back.
Yeah, I got disconnected.
Uh-oh. She's back.
Took a couple of good breaths to help.
Yeah, so
Yeah, feel proud of yourselves, guys. Don't we? We've all got our bits to do. We all know what it is. We're all doing our bits.
Yeah, we're all talking, and that's what's most important, because it's like we're lighting each other up, and we're telling every other flat earther what we know, and that's really important. And
in a sense, you can't tell anyone what flat Earth is. You can only tell them that they have to experience it for themselves to actually get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You can lead a horse to flat Earth, but you can't make him fall off the ball.
It's something very, very, it's like telling someone that they're adopted. I mean, it's a big thing. It's you have to be very cautious.
Well, I always do this bit when people will look at you and say, you're mad. And you think, I'm mad? You think we're going like 260,000 miles an hour in 3 different directions. One of those is 1,000 anti-clockwise with the moon. 80.
Globes, yeah.
You think I'm crazy? Hard one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So indoctrinated. Well, I'm glad we woke up. I'm glad we're all here.
Yes.
More friends, because we didn't meet Maria that long ago. So, yeah, new friends, good friends.
Karen. I love that name, Karen. It's beautiful.
Oh,
Karen, I've got a glass in my hand, so I'll raise a toast to that.
I'll
toast
to
new
still
friends,
I'm just
mate.
making a cup of coffee.
Yeah, cheers. I've got my coffee here. Cheers.
I didn't want
Karen's
making too much noise.
Karen, Sharon, 60s.
Do you guys read Flat Earth books?
Yeah.
Like, I've read Mark Sargent's, I've read Eric Dubé's, I've read his novel. I read
I'd
Zetetic
recommend
astronomy.
some of the older Zetetic stuff, to be honest.
Yeah,
with you.
I read
There's
that.
some,
You can get it free online. You know?
yeah, there's a lot of good old documents that are well worthy of reading in terms of their scientific evaluation of concepts, if nothing else.
Yes. We have artists who's in the chat room. He does that on our show, on our panel. We have nights with him, and he's just gone on for masses of information.
Yeah, there's so much to gain.
There's on the internet a whole archive of what is it, of the 1900s, all kinds of articles and books from that time, who actually kind of got lost in the public. And then you see what's there already, and then, okay, nothing was told to me.
No, certainly you
did all that, you know. Books, like you're saying, there's not enough in books anymore. It's all on our cameras. You know, you change your phone, you lose all your photographs because you go onto another phone. And, you know, we used to take pictures and record them. Now we just don't record anything. We're just all virtual, aren't we? Keep it on our phone.
I truly believe that's part of the plan, though. That has been where they're leading us, because what Ceres just said is what I've been looking at. There is tons of stuff, like, you know, World at the Poles, and if you dig even more in America, there's hundreds of actual people that were wealthy, not wealthy. That there was a Canadian lady. Like, there's a huge flat Earth history as well, which follows right up until the 60s, when maybe the marijuana revolution had something to do with people waking up again, but they started remembering that the Earth was flat. So then NASA was born, you know. But I kind of feel like this digital push has been part of the program, with the television and all that stuff, way back. This is decided back.
Plus, I think that when everything is digitalized, you know, how easy is it to remove? I mean, okay, they can.
That's what I'm saying.
They can tamper with it all. You know, I mean, take copies,
change, erase, wash, wipe. That's where it is now.
Is George Washington our first president? Who knows?
He was our 15th president.
I was going to say, there's no chance.
Seriously, between 1776 and 17 whatever it was, 86, I think. I don't remember when we actually incorporated.
Who is our
we had like
president?
13 presidents. There were black presidents before Barack Obama.
Wasn't he the first Masonic president?
He was the first Masonic. That's why he gets all the glory, right? Yeah. It's crazy stuff.
So then, if you've had black presidents, then the slave thing can't be on the line. Can't have all been slaves.
You know,
bingo.
Yeah. Anything to anything to cause dissension among us
Party
and
of
get us
slavery,
fighting
the
each other.
Democrats.
Oh my goodness.
There's going to be a civil war, guys, in America. There's going to be a civil war. I'm pretty sure of it. I mean,
they're doing everything they can to stir it up.
Here. It's so bad here. I mean, you know, it's so bad.
What were you gonna? What were you gonna say, Adam? Sorry to cut you off, Marie.
It depends how deep you want to get on the theory of that, doesn't it? You can go as far as there's alternative Caribbean theories. You've got Olmec heads that would suggest that it wasn't possible to transport that many slaves, that actually there was a resident black population in the Caribbean and Southern America.
Yeah, there was
actually underwent a worse process than slavery, that underwent a kind of mass genocide and reprogramming.
Can I just say on that score that Dave Murphy came on one of our hangouts, and he said the same thing, that he found that where he came from, his ancestors were in Ireland, and what it was is they weren't slaves and they had their own land. And the black people were there before the white people.
Yeah, I think Dave would like that. Dave has a certain tint on his glasses that I'm not alluding to. I think if you start to go back to that sort of history, then all colours and creeds seem to emanate from a race stemming from Ireland, which is where we see most of modern history stemming from. which even emerges into Egypt and then out. But that's a long story. But I think Dave's got this appears to be a political agenda to some of Dave's stuff, which I don't necessarily subscribe to.
Okay.
Adam, what do you think of all the people that know about the Earth is flat, like, you know, the elite, and imagine the things that they had to do to get that secret and whatever they had to do, and we just got it from our own minds and from each other, and we didn't have to go through all those levels or all those, you know what I mean? We didn't have to sell out our family. We didn't have to, you know what I'm saying? And we just did this. They must really hate us,
They do.
considering what they've done. They're damned, you know? But there's
Oh,
no
look at
such
last
thing as
night.
damned. You could always come clean. You could always come clean if you bring names, you know?
I went to bed to a false flag attack, you know, to wake up to the from one suspect, 2 dead and 24 wounded, to now 2 suspects, and they have a tip line open, and
It's all
what is
theater.
it,
They know
50?
it's all theater.
Yeah, I mean,
And let me
it's
guess, they're looking for the roommate. Okay, they're looking for the best friend. She's on the run.
always,
You know?
and of course
I
they
know.
found his ID.
I noticed a pattern of numbers. I hate
You know.
numbers, but I
They
will say
plant
it.
stuff in your house.
50 and 55. So the number 555. And I humored myself and actually looked it up. It means a huge
550.
change is coming. It means change. It signifies a massive change coming.
Oh,
It's coming.
where have you seen
And
that?
we're like on the
may I
tip of it.
ask?
We're on the tip of it, guys. But it's not just flat Earth. It's the
I will
virus
pull it
hoax.
up.
It's the food hoaxes. You know, with all the poisons they give. You know what I mean? It's not just flat
Yeah.
Earth. It's everything under flat Earth umbrella.
Chemtrail.
But we're at the tippy
For
top. I'm pretty sure we're at the tippy top. The only thing that's higher is where's all the gold. That's probably really good knowledge. Where's
The
all
end
the
of the
gold?
rainbow. You know
That's might
that.
be a little.
That's what's- there you go, Astral. You're right.
And what's at the end of the rainbow? Yeah.
I know it's all crazy because, you know, with all the flooding and the hurricanes, these people tried to help and they were turned away, or there was blockades up to stop them going in to help the people.
Yeah.
It's a little worse than
How
that,
could they
actually.
do
There's prison ships parked in Port Arthur, Texas, right now. People are being taken to prison ships because they have no homes anymore. Bodies were
FEMA
washed
prison
out to
ships.
sea. They
Someone told
opened
me you never go
dams.
on them.
Yeah, don't go on a boat. Don't go on a bus. Don't
You'll
go
never be
anywhere
seen
FEMA
again.
tries to take you. You will
You'll
not
never
be seen again.
Cajun Navy said that, right?
Oh,
You'll
my
come out
goodness,
better
it
trying to
sounds
survive on your
terrible.
own. Do what?
Said that sounds terrible.
It is
that's-
terrible.
that's really
I'm right
bad.
here in the midst of it. I have watched these storms my whole life. I've seen these things. What it has turned into over the years has become, it's sad and sickens me.
Say
When
what?
they
We
were
all
in
had
New
to
hunting
each
each
Orleans,
other.
other,
they
People
blew
are
the
hunting each
levees
other.
up.
right?
They blew the levees up in New Orleans
They
and
could
killed
use it
people.
for
And now
good,
they're,
and they don't.
yeah,
They
they're
don't
hunting
use
and
it for
killing
good. They
people in
use it for bad.
Texas.
Right
could
now,
help
they're hunting
us.
people.
It's pretty much like the Purge movies in Texas at this
100%.
point.
Yeah.
And that's where you live, right?
I'm in Louisiana. I'm the next state over. But I know people who went there to help people and were turned away. They went from Louisiana there with boats to help and were turned away.
Yeah,
Now,
they'll
what is
shoot
that?
you.
What is that?
They'll shoot you.
They were saying the same thing last night, though, as I went to bed. There were people trying to get to Las Vegas to help get people out, and they were telling them to leave, to go away. Well, of course, if anybody really gets there to try to help, they're going to see all the fakery and all the
They're
staged
going to find out
events. And
it was staged.
You know something as well? We have
Yeah.
people who were in the Mexican earthquake, the second one. Well, they were in the first one, but the second one was much worse. And he said that 2 earthquakes happened at once. And then he said this boom went through them. Watching Terminator 2 when she's waiting for the nuclear bomb to go off, and then there's this boom, and it went through all the
Exactly
people.
1
and
year. 1 year. It's like a 1 year anniversary of like
That's
the
what she
last
said.
big
She was
earthquake.
called
Yeah.
Pete. They just done the drill for the anniversary of that big earthquake, and then this other one happens a couple of hours afterwards.
That's how you can tell it's Luciferian, because they think they're math geniuses. They think they're really smart, but they're just pervies. You know?
well, part of it is the lesser magic of them showing it to us. That's part of it. They gain energy from mocking us with it and showing it to us, revealing
Drinking
it.
blood.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's one thing that I find at the moment anyway.
Kind of
Everything is just so ridiculously apparent, you know? It's like
Yeah.
On the dollar bill.
it ain't just
Yeah.
apparent, it's like this is ridiculously apparent.
Because we're
You
flat
feel me?
earthers, we can see it. Nobody
Yeah,
else
but-
can see it because they just
Yeah.
can't see what we can see.
And it's like, are you blind or you know?
They are, you know.
They actually say they don't care.
Yeah. Well, there's another type of blindness.
They
Bit of
can't,
a
but they
hidden
should have the
weapon, though.
option of.
If they actually knew the truth, they wouldn't want it.
in that sense lost in space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cognizance system.
I think it's a bit of a weapon because for us that see it, like Walt's shirt there in the video, realize. For me, my favorite hobby now is watching old stuff with my new head because I see it in a second. It's like a game. I love it. My favorite. But
Where's Walt?
yeah, exactly. Where's Waldo? Well, he's everywhere, and I can even tell you when he's going to be there. But the
What
problem.
they've done to us, right? What they've done to us. I'm sorry, it's treason.
Oh yeah, it's well
it's beyond
way
that.
beyond there,
It's
man.
like
We're
passive.
Molestation, it's
All treason.
constant rape, unfortunately.
constant rape.
And if the others don't start waking up, then they'll be allowed to carry on testing us, using us, lying to us, chemming us.
Mhm.
In
People
a
be
way,
walking
they give,
around crying for no reason. Everybody would be on drugs, you know?
in a way, they give you the babies, but we have to filter the dirty bathwater.
Right.
That's the part we. The babies
That's
we
the
need to catch.
discernment. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the discernment.
Has
And
anyone
they
else?
envy you.
Has
They
anyone
envy you.
else?
They envy flat earthers.
Has anyone else seen these New World Order coins?
Mm-mm. I seen the Amero, but no.
Is that? Yeah, that's probably it. Has it got a picture of liberty or something on it?
It's
What is
Mexico, Canada, and the United States as one, and they had a
TPP.
coin out.
it? Oh, I don't think it's that then. No. This is something a
Can
little
I
bit.
just say
This
something?
time.
I've just got it sitting there. I just want to ask the Americans and maybe neighbouring Canadas, like, I remember watching this news and they were going back to an area which had had a really bad tornado. The thing is, it still looked like it only happened yesterday, but it didn't. It happened 3 years before and they had not been able to rebuild any of it. When are the people going to wake up and realise it's not all wonderful and beautiful and everything's like sewn together? Everything's broken. You're really poor in America. The communities are not being rebuilt. There's no money for the people, and yet they're going out with harp and wars and going into space just to try and tell us they've got lots of money. People are going to notice, hey, none of the towns are being rebuilt when there's disasters.
Sex slavery of children.
What do you do to those people that you can't go into Texas then?
Ask me, pornography is the biggest contamination of keeping the mind busy and off focus.
I would agree. That and television and money, sex, and television. They compete.
They have animal
like
bodies,
no
you know?
Yeah, animalizers.
It's so shocking, really. Even if we woke up maybe a year or two ago or whatever, it's just so shocking to think that it's just like we're in a game.
A puzzle.
You got that right.
And we're going to be the ones that figure it out. The flat earthers are going to be the ones that figure it out. And we already have, right?
I hope so.
We figured it out.
We're on our way.
After all this time, you know?
That some people don't actually like this word spiritual, but we're in a spiritual realm and it's coming together spiritually. That's what will draw us together. It is.
Again, I'd have to say correct, and that's what I think happened in the late 60s before they went to the moon and really made people forget about that again.
Yeah.
Do you think that there was scams before the 50s and 60s? Like vaccines, you know, and they just wanted, and now it's AI, artificial intelligence, and, you know, tomorrow's going to be chimeras, you know, and none of it will be true.
You mean like we got the plague and stuff like that, but they weren't really
It's just
happening.
yeah, and
They made
space was just really successful. It was really a successful lie. Maybe I meant that on purpose.
We'll never know now because you can't go that far back.
Successful lie. Yeah.
Here, Freud. Here, boy.
We don't even know who the pyramid people are exactly, and what quite what happened to all this history. We've got fair ideas, and we've worked with Chris Monkey, shown us probably what happened with these great big electrical arcings. Some of it might have been natural, like that's it. Everything is the opposite.
Yeah.
Before I got into flat Earth, one of the things I read with great interest was history, and one of the things you look into is that history's completely made up. There are no documents before 1500. If there were, they've been successfully destroyed. So any history prior to 1500 has been manipulated, destroyed, and controlled, and everything post 1500
probably since the beginning,
it really is rewritten consistently to evolve a narrative,
to fit
and that narrative has worked towards the ball. Yeah.
If you ask me, the thing with the circle map and the ball map, in a way I say, what is it? Not divided, not conquered, not in chaos, not under control, not a circle, not a ball. Squaring the circle and freedom in order, though. Not a circle and not a ball. As what was the point of this? They planted the circle as a flat Earth to hide north, and with the ball they could actually hide south as well to actually contain everything within the square, because there was nothing else than the ball. So you're kind of prisoner in that perspective, thinking there's nothing else. Circle made a thing happen that you could actually physically go to the south. But the north wasn't.
Can I ask a quick question though, a basic question more than anything? So in terms of north and south, are you defining two polarities there, or
also a way out? Because as far as I can figure, you need at least 26 squares to complete the loop in the fifth dimension. That is the second axis, what is actually also a toroidal field, and a line, what is...
So you're suggesting more a magnetic field created by gates as opposed to a definitive polarity?
Sorry?
Are you suggesting a illusory magnetic field created by portal gates as opposed to a definitive Mount Meru type?
Several magnetic fields actually tying into each other, creating a toroidal chain idea.
And that would be linked to the southern anomalies and...
Oh, realm. And then between the realms there are the interlocking fields, and then you have the next realm. And then an interlocking field again, and then the next realm.
And is that a transportery or a repeat pattern you're suggesting?
Yes.
An alternative universe almost.
The Flower of Life grid, because of this single square in east-west and 13 squares in north and south direction, I actually end up with 26 squares to create a single loop in the Flower of Life grid. And when you actually turn it a quarter, you have the same one, but then for the heavenly one.
Right. So this is what Josh was alluding to.
Whoa.
Sorry, Josh, alluding?
This is the bit I'm not getting, and the video of yours I need to see, which is where you're talking the Flower of Life and that transcription over the map. So at that point, I have to bow out with any.
We could play another video to maybe so you could understand it. Ceres, play the fractal one I've put on Sun and Moon, the third one down, and he's got to try and explain this.
I will do something else.
I have a question. Does it at all relate the number of fields to the Kabbalistic, you know, their little tree of life? Is that the number of fields as well? Does that match up biblically?
You have matched
I bet you it does. I'm guessing there's like 7 or something.
What are you doing, Ceres?
Right.
Is he frozen? Ceres.
I think I use a little bit much memory at this point. Okay, I'm sharing.
Ceres, I've got another quick question, and it relates to the map that you've displayed, because that's something I've played with a lot, and I appreciate that some of this is a spiritual realm. That's terrible feedback.
It might be Ceres. Let him play this.
See it in the map?
Yeah.
The Tree of Life, the Kabbalah. And it is based on the middle circle, what is based on the square, the middle square. And that is the hard part of the tree. It is the Tree of Life as well.
I was muted. You're kidding me.
You're kidding me.
It is literally that.
It is literally that is exactly.
It is exactly, yeah.
You're joking.
No, you're not joking.
I'm not joking.
I'm speechless, man.
Wow.
That there was, however, a little deviation. And I found that particular point of deviation by putting the Analima on the map, or the tropics on the map. And that created that I could draw the Analima as well of the sun. I proposed a small circle and a big circle based on the golden ratio between the tropics. And that golden ratio position of the two circles up with the main wave of the sun, the yellow wave which you see here. And then you have one of the moon as well as a reverse. And the crossing of the two waves I placed on the 0.0 latitude longitude, and the sun Analima crossing on the appropriate wave position, exactly on its golden ratio between the tropics. And by doing that, in the south, you can see that the yellow circles here actually line up with the particular mountain and valley in the elevation data. And above you have kind of the same with the blue ones. But above is more dynamic, below is more static. And we see this the same with the magnetic field, for example, where you have this Tree of Life flower in the right bottom, is where you practically have the southern focal point of the magnetic field. And in the north, you'll have it in this region here, in the left top of it.
I'm gonna wager a guess that the ley lines and the places of interest have to also line up.
If Ceres is doing this, because he can then mute himself, and then we won't get all the lagging. Just let him finish his bit, and then ask questions afterwards. Go on, Ceres.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. From this point, I discovered that there was just way more to this story than I initially thought what I would find. I mean, to begin with, I had just a photographic square and figured out the formula, what they actually kind of hide in and via forum I discovered somebody actually talking about the particular function name, what they used, and searching for that in their own code of their Google Maps application, and figured out what the formulas were to actually get the images, because I needed something to translate the GPS coordinates I'm getting with the readings. And through figuring out this formula, I actually figured out this particular wave, which you see. And we are looking in the XY photographic dimensions, and the latitude is this wave projected in this dimension. And what you see is that the latitude value is not a complete diagonal line from the left top to the right bottom. No, it has an actual particular wave between it. And they use the Tangus function to end up with an infinity problem here at the edge, that when you have exactly 90 degrees, you end up in an error in the calculator through this formula. But you can get up to 98.99999999999 latitude. And it shows actually that here at the edge of the square, the yellow line, you'll end up, the bottom square actually ends up within this particular small area, in where probably almost 2/3 disappears in 1 pixel. Or at least half of it, I see. So this edge data is completely nonsense if it comes out of a ball, or at least the first step of transformation already. And yeah, figuring out what this wave function was and what it presented, and they had also the reverse one that you can calculate it from the XY coordinates in the particular zoom level into the GPS coordinates. And that was for me the method to actually scan the whole world from the biggest level. What I started with was level 5, what is only 32 by 32 pixels, and that's very small. And from level 9, it's 512 by 512, and that's what you see here. And I can go up to 15, but only up to 12 I can actually manage to display in my browser. I just don't, in a way, I can't do it in a canvas through a website. It's just too big to show. But level 12 is already big enough to see a lot of detail in the elevation itself. Out of these XY zoom level coordinates, I get all the GPS coordinates in where I request all the elevation data in my ScanBot. Well, just gets all the XY position elevation data in that particular zoom level, and in this case zoom level 50.
That's him downloading it.
And this is just the main image to keep track of what I already have, but I don't have that particular one running to collect all the data and to make it the images, so I can actually directly show it in that sense. I'm building all these little icons, and out of this I generate these kinds of images, 512 by 512. And that's 16 times 32. And out of that, I create a complete image of the world as far as there are images. The red area is missing. The red area is the missing part here. And that is the main research, the missing Google satellite image research. And at this moment, I'm blocked on their servers for downloading, what is it, 500,000 images within a day. Yeah, but we can get around this by just having more people scanning, opening this page so that more people actually scan the map data for what I still need. So for this one, for the Elevate same robot environment in where it just collects the data and sends it to the server the same. And then out of that, in the background, I create the rest of the images together, and also the 3D part. This is, for example, built out of that image range. Well, yeah, I have already up till level 12 completely made. But yeah, that's, we need to figure out a way to actually build the biggest image out of what we can make, and probably make a poster out of it or something. To a better study instead of only a screen. Yeah.
Sorry?
I've got a question.
Mute Ceres.
So yeah, where am I? There am I.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's because he's got too much going on his computer.
Yeah, no problem. And basically, it relates to Greenland and its relative size, and that's confusing me as to what the image is representing.
You mean the size of Greenland?
Yeah.
It doesn't change. They say that the area of Greenland is smaller, but that's what they say. I don't have data what it actually tells me. And I'm going for what the data says instead of what authority claims what it says.
Yeah, so for me, what that's saying is when you take all those components from Google Earth and you stitch it together, it makes Greenland that big. It makes it, and it makes Africa very small. Is that what the data is representing when you extrapolate it out from Google Earth? That's crazy.
Yeah, if you take the photograph,
sorry, carry on, Ceres.
Yeah, if you take the photographs and you stitch it together, then I don't know how you actually go on with the photograph other than taking what the photograph says. You see a big square and then a looping one, because I can't find an edge in east-west direction. And then in north-south, I can only find an edge in the data itself, but not in what the data tells me. There must be more beyond. It doesn't stop there. And the flout of life grid tells me by the way it repeats as a grid that there are more squares needed to actually line up the base circle again with the square again. And then in east-west direction, you need only one circle step. And the formula, what I figured out, is that you actually draw 15 circles within 13 squares. And I'm not sure what the numbers actually mean and why. But so far, the gematria from Marty Leach ties into how the alphabet is explained, in that you have the G as the heaven, as the circle, and the T as the earth, as the square. And the circle and the square are working together. And it seems that the triangles are what is actually connecting both. Because when you draw the flower of life circles, you end up with focal points, and if you connect all those points together as a triangle grid, you end up actually figuring out where the square is. You can place it on any circle, but once you place it on the square, on the base circle where you start, then you figure out how the grid of the square, the construct of the square, actually is repeating itself through this grid. So you have the square grid and the circle grid, and you can also turn the flower of life grid a quarter in 90 degrees, so that you have the same grid but then in another orientation. And that one is probably connecting into the sky, into the heavens. And that is a double grid what is at work there. One for the land and one for the sky.
As above, so below.
As above, so below.
Yeah. And if you had to put in the sky in here, I'm just beginning on the land. And there are several people tying into this as well. Quiz with all the toroidal field stuff. How these wheels are actually turning, and we figured out through how is that the shredding guy over? Owen's failure. We figured out how the perspective bubble around us is not turning 1,000 miles an hour around the Earth, but somewhere between 60 and 100 kilometers an hour around us. And that makes the perspective bubble way smaller and us more actually in reality the center of it. That we are kind of toroidal fields on our own within a toroidal dynamic around us. What is the realm in where we live, and actually completely electromagnetic based up till the atom in that we can't even see the difference between what is not an atom. In the sense that Santos Bonacci brings it with all his atum. It's even throughout our language. And even language is, and sound and everything is just tied into this whole sacred geometry stuff. And it seems that, in a sense, if you take the word was before anything else became, then sound is probably the source of everything.
Yeah.
And I saw in the Mandelbrot fractal that you have kind of finite form with an infinite depth in its detail. And it's kind of that the word is having the same nature, that it is a kind of finite thing what is, but infinite in its nature, expressing itself throughout probably multiverses. And yesterday night I found a very nice video about Mandelbrot fractal, kind of explaining what the relation with Julia set is as well, and eventually creating a complete three-dimensional expression of what the whole combination means actually. And it kind of created how we have the magnetic fields probably working within our square as tying points in where everything is the Mandelbrot. And I can draw it here over here, but it's kind of heavy to draw in at this moment. But in the middle you see already the Mandelbrot fractal over the sun and the moon, Anonima. What I discovered was also that when I draw the Mandelbrot in a dimension of the main square, the side of it gets kind of reflected through the space loop, and the interference pattern makes these little areas actually making up this pattern in the middle as well. So it's like the main Mandelbrot is actually creating the interference pattern of the analemma within where the sun moves. And it's as if you then, each layer is their own Mandelbrot in that, yeah. Each as another layer on top of it, in how that whole astrology part is described in all these layers and effects.
Can have anything to do with why the Mandelbrot's there, right there. You found that 0 point next to Africa.
That 0 point, that actually I based that on the golden ratio between the tropics. And the tropics seems to be also the area between where the magnetic field is switching from the north to the south, as in upwards into downwards. And funny enough, the land in the south is upwards above sea, and then the north is below sea level. So it ties kind of into the magnetic field stuff.
And Ceres could go on.
And this is what I'm trying to figure out with the north magnetic point and where that leads to, and the south magnetic point where that leads to. This one is just not close enough. Almost. Okay. Let's render it. I try to find a region where it actually deviates and it goes around that particular point, so I can actually figure out where the fields lead to. And it seems these points are actually dividing 4 different fields. The crossing point itself, one is going north and one is going south here, and then there's also an east and a west direction, as if that point itself has no particular polarity or something. It's just a focal point between 4 fields and south. And I'm just positioning just too small to see the particular point. So I need to adjust the point in the south a little bit. and I'm figuring out in which direction to go. But that's how far I am at this point. To see what everything is gonna do.
Thanks, Ceres. Ceres has been doing this for weeks, this stuff. Years. And was it Blender as well lately? One computer.
Yeah, since Chris came with Blender, I figured out what Blender was, and that was actually kind of the first really user-friendly, I would say, for a 3D engine to create the models. As soon as you actually can learn what the keyboard does, then yeah, it's pretty easy to work with. It just takes a lot of CPU and such to actually do the heavier stuff. For that, we have better computers, I guess.
And now, anything to say?
I would take my silence as that's a lot of information to take in and a big theory to take in, which I promise you I'm going to head off and get my teeth into. It looks really interesting, really amazing the amount of work you've put in there, dude. So there's a promise from me. I'm going to head off and try and get my teeth into this, because I think there's a lot of stuff you're trying to get over to us, and I think I'm struggling with some of the basics to fully grasp the bigger concepts she's probably trying to explain.
Yeah, and mostly it ties into free energy's explanation of the fourth dimension, and I guess I need to build actually a little model to explain it, how I perceive it for myself. Kind of, yeah, to have a more underlying thought over this, that you can easily get over the fourth dimension. That's the biggest barrier most people will have, and that is the fourth dimension, because that means that they have to get out of the three-dimensional thought box. Because in a sense, everything what people call physics is only three-dimensionally based. And anything else beyond that, in dimensional sense, is just unperceivable in that, because we can't deal with infinities. You can't compute that in a computer, for
Because you
example.
can't see it, can you? You're in different dimensions. You can't see the other dimensions.
Well,
You can't see them.
You can see it, because in this sense you can see the fourth dimension as a loop, because that is the fourth dimension. It is only not that it is a parallel thing. No, it is exactly the same. And then people are thinking in the edges of the square, but that is not a particular edge. That is just the edge of your perspective bubble in how far the construct of the square works. But the fourth dimension is the circle within the first dimension. And then you have even the second dimension, which is the north-south direction. And that is also a looping one. But
We need to get some people who can translate this.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be like the free energy stuff. That, I mean, I literally had to watch his first video 2 or 3 times to even wrap my head around that. And then after that, each video took weeks to just absorb it. And then other things came along, and I kind of moved away from his channel and really have not kept up with his research. So I'm maybe a step ahead on some of this than the rest of the guys at Iron Realm. Not much, but I definitely am going to have to dig in deeper with it.
And on that note, too, I'd just like to add, I have to go now, but I'd just like to thank you guys again on behalf of Iron Realm Media for having us, and personal thank you for me for having me personally on. It's been a pleasure.
It's frightened you off then, just asking, because it is a lot to take in.
No, it's actual real life. Gotta eat. Gotta do some functions and see to a couple things. And like Adam said, I'm gonna dig into it later. This is a lot, but a lot of it is making sense, and that's what this is about. So we're gonna look at it, and we would love to have you on the show. Any one of you, open-ended invitation. Come with a plan or come without a plan, and just come for love. That's about it. But I got to go, guys. Thanks again. It's been wonderful. And make sure you check out our show, Iron Realm Media Weekly Fringe Cast, Fridays, each and every Friday at 10 p.m. GMT. Thank you.
Are we going to come back for an exiting group hug? Series.
See you on the show at the other side, I guess.
I'm all the way.
Mute yourself. Oh, it's so mute.
I'm so echoing.
Oh, whilst if you're still in a hugging mood, guys, I'm going to head as well because I've got work in the morning, unfortunately. So, guys, it's been a real pleasure. I haven't got such a good soundbite as Plug as James, but
see, I'd like to. You know, it was interesting listening to you about you. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to coming on again and maybe just chatting. Maybe we're not so many of us and bits and bobs, and maybe getting to know you a bit better as well. I'd look forward to that, mate. But maybe we could have you guys on IRM as well. And
I'd like to hear more about your stuff as well. So yeah, I'm going to have a good gander.
I've got some good stuff that you should have a look at. I did a proper scientific moonlight experiment with proper overtime temperature readings with decent quality calibrated equipment. Have a look. It's on the Iron Realm channels. There's a fair bit out there, and we've just had a big thumbs up from Antonio Subarats tonight on my maths for my flat Earth calculator. So you check out Friday's show, you'll see what we did there. But come and join us. It'll be good fun, guys. You know what I mean? It's been a pleasure meeting you all tonight. So I shall certainly try and hop on midweeks if you're always about.
Well, we've kind of got a messenger thing going, so we can talk on there, can't we?
Excellent. Yeah. If I've got 5 minutes and free, I'll send you a little link and send you a message to get a link. Then that'd be brilliant.
Nice meeting you.
Brilliant.
Ceres, mute. Got to tell him off. Mute.
Ceres, mate, it's been a pleasure meeting you, and all of you guys. It really has been a pleasure. God bless you all, and I'll speak to you soon, hopefully. Yeah?
Meet you soon and see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Adam. Love you, brother.
You do.
For a bit longer.
I'm about to go to bed. It's 10 to 1 here.
Please mute Ceres. I'm gonna mute him.
I'm waiting for it.
Feels like I'm at home. This is how our shows usually wind up going. We have echo, we have drop. Yeah, we have fun. You guys are all welcome anytime. Please get get your information to Adam and I and anybody else there. I know you guys are on Facebook. I personally don't do Facebook a lot. I'm getting into it. I just started an account for my Flat Earth Head account, so I'm trying to stick my toe in it. I've preferred Twitter over the years just because it was a little more streamlined, a little less extraneous things going on. So, but definitely get on Twitter with us if you guys aren't on there. We have a blast there. And it's been great here. As far as the free, right, as far as this map though, Ceres, man, you have just, like I said, I was deep into Free Energy's work. I was having a little trouble with some of the mechanistic, I guess, or mechanical stuff that he would get into, like the railway systems overhead, and some of that was just a little out there. I don't know. What's your take on that, the mechanical side of all this? Do you think there's machinery at work overhead?
Oh, what it causes, you mean?
Right.
That's a kind of difficult question.
Well, then we'll
I
save it
meant
for our show.
at some point that shows this. Like I came across a meme for you have what what I think, you have what I tell to other people, what you have what people understand. But I made that into what I can see is in 7D. What I can think about is in 6D, and what I can put in words is in 5D, and what I actually tell to other people is in 4D. It's out of my heart in a sense. But what people actually understand is just that little bubble of 3D.
That's amazing,
And-
man. That's
and-
beautiful.
That's
You need to write
amazing.
that down.
Trying to get that down, you know? We're so much more than that. We're not.
The realms.
We are the reality.
I'm just-
itself, it seems, you know?
Right. So I keep turning Ceres down because I think someone's going to talk. Ceres carries on talking.
No,
What?
I'm going to go to bed. So I'm going to say thank you for having me on. And I know I've been a bit quiet and tired. I'm going to be even more tomorrow.
I thought
Well, Astral, get your information to us too.
I thought maybe we'd be talking a little bit more, and then Ceres' work came out, and then there's silence while everybody's looking at Ceres' work.
Just
No,
minds or
Sorry, we can't
I
hear you.
know it's a little bit heavy to digest, but take your time.
I've actually watched it a few times, quite a few times, so I understand it. A deal, I wouldn't say a lot, but a deal anyway. And I like to sleep on it. I like to look at it, visualize it, sleep on it, you know. And I have some wild ideas. I might email you one day, see what you think. But I'm going to say good night.
Oh.
Thanks
Good
for having me.
night. And big hugs.
It was good to meet you, brother.
Stay flat, you know, spread the word. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Back at you.
Please mute yourself.
And then there were 4.
And then there were 4. Yeah, are you exiting too?
I probably should. I smell some food cooking about, so I should probably get myself off as well. Guys, this was great. It is so good to network this thing, to stretch it as far as we can. You guys are doing amazing stuff. I've watched your videos. I have missed this whole map thing, though. I usually spend a lot of time dealing with what we're doing, so I don't have as much time for research as I did in the early days. I miss those early glory days.
Can I just say that we started out with Ceres' work, and then came Chris Monk with lots of different work around Ceres' work. So in a sense, Ceres sat quiet for weeks, like doing lots of presentations and the eclipse and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there were several people with good research, and yeah, it's just eat it in that sense, and that's where the show where we created this YouTube channel for as well, so that people have actually food to eat. Something to digest in their minds.
If it was just like people could look at Ceres' work and say, hey, it looks a bit cartoon-like and whatever it is, but we've got a myriad of people now whose work is interlinking. So everybody's beginning to know that we're living in the show. But anyway,
Yes.
That's another.
Thank you guys so much. We have your information. Definitely get ours. Stay with us. Hang out with us. You guys are all welcome to the show. I think we have some guests lined up over the next 2 weeks or so, maybe. But it's always we take all comers. So hop in the chat. We'll drop a link to you guys for sure.
We'd love to talk about it to more people.
Absolutely. Well, we're at Iron Realm Media, guys, out there. Iron Realm Media, check out all our stuff. We've been doing it a while. We've got some amazing guys doing some amazing work. Adam's work on math last week just was mind-blowing. He is definitely we've thrown away the 8 inches mile per squared, so definitely go look at his math, check that out, see what you think about it, Ceres.
And thank you for your radio station.
Y'all take care.
Thank you.
Too late.
Ceres. You. wondered, like, I know that maybe some of the people in the chat room might have seen it, and I don't know, it's not that long. Play the Mandelbrot one series so that if they understand what you've got to try and show them. This whole thing with that Mandelbrot going round and round, this is what you've got to show them. Like, this is what you're trying to explain. Unmute yourself, but I won't say anything. It's number 3 or something. Sun and moon.
In my previous video, I animated through all
Not
the
that one,
Julia sets
sorry.
of z squared plus c along the real and complex axes. Question was asked about the transition point where the majority of the points go from outside to inside and why it seems to become very chaotic. I thought this might be a good start to discuss the relationship between the Mandelbrot set and the Julia set for z squared plus c. But before we look at some cool pictures, let's first take a quick refresher on the math. The Mandelbrot set's iterative equation is commonly given as z squared plus c. So, if we have a two-dimensional plane where we have x as the real number axis and y as the complex number axis, all the points represent a complex number. We can take any single point, or number, and use it as c in our equation. We start with a z of 0 plus 0i and run the equation once. We then take that result and use that as our new z, leaving c as our original number. Rinse, repeat, etc. until the number does one of two things. It escapes off to infinity, or it hangs around the origin. Those that hang around, even after millions of iterations, we call inside, and those that escape, we call outside. Now you may wonder why we start this process at 0 instead of skipping that first iteration and load z with just our point number. Well, put a pin in that, because we'll come back to that in a bit. For now, let's just take a look at the Julia sets. Specifically, the Julia set with the equation of z squared plus c, since Julia sets comprise many types of equations. Go look it up if you want more. In fact, for the rest of this video, when I say Julia set, I will mean specifically the Julia set for z squared plus c, so I don't have to say z squared plus c over and over again. The very astute among you may have noticed that the Julia equation is exactly the same as the Mandelbrot equation. The main difference, however, is the value that we use as our c, which in the Mandelbrot set, we used our complex point number. But now we use an arbitrary value. So for any point on our complex number plane, we start the first iteration with z loaded with our point number and some arbitrary value for c. At this point, the sequence is the same as before. We iterate through until the result escapes or it hangs around. As you can see, changing the c value can give drastically different results. Now comes the fun part. Since the two equations are the same, we can draw a direct connection from a point on the Mandelbrot set to a specific point on a specific Julia set. Consider our first Mandelbrot example, where we chose the point 0.5 plus 0.5i. We then started our iteration sequence with 0 squared plus 0.5 plus 0.5i. The same sequence happens in the Julia set when we use 0.5 plus 0.5i as our arbitrary c value, and we run the point at the origin. The result of this is that for any point on the Mandelbrot set, inside or outside, there is a direct correspondence to the origin of the Julia set with a c of that point. In effect, this means that the picture of the Mandelbrot set is an index to all of the Julia sets for the point 0 plus 0i. Let's illustrate this by comparing the two. On the left is a close-up of a subsection of the Mandelbrot set with a target around a specific point. On the right is the Julia set with a c that equals the number under the target in the Mandelbrot set, and we've put a target around the origin. Now, as we move up the Mandelbrot set, we can see that the corresponding Julia set changes. Those with quick eyes will see that the point under both targets changes at the same time. But don't worry, I'll slow it down a bit in a second. Let's get a little closer to the edge first. We'll zoom in a bit to get more detail. really zoom in here. As you can see, when we are inside on the Mandelbrot set side, we will also be inside on the Julia set side. As we get closer to the main body of the Mandelbrot set, our Julia set, much like ice flows, comes together to form a more solid shape. Here we are well inside, even with random iteration. Points under the targets won't escape. Let's zoom back out and we can see that as we progress deeper inside the Mandelbrot set, the corresponding Julia set becomes solid, finally reaching a perfect circle at the origin. Okay, we've accounted for a single point on each of the Julia sets, but what about the rest of them? Do they connect to the Mandelbrot set in any meaningful way? The short answer is yes, they absolutely correspond to points on the Mandelbrot set. They're sort of. For the more complete answer, we have to work backwards a bit from Julia to Mandelbrot. Remember I said in the beginning to put a pin in the fact that we start at 0 when we run our iterations for the Mandelbrot set, even though we could easily skip that step. Well, what happens if we don't start at 0? Instead, what if we offset the start point? Mathematically, this becomes the same as if we choose a point not at the origin in our Julia set. Let's look again at our comparison, except this time we'll leave the target on the Mandelbrot side at a single point, and we'll move the target on the Julia side. We'll use the point value from the Julia set as our starting offset value for the Mandelbrot side. As we increase in the positive complex direction, we can see that the Mandelbrot set does some pretty interesting gymnastics. However, the value under each of the targets remains the same for both sides. Here we travel in the negative complex direction, which produces the same result as the positive side did. This makes sense since squaring the number is the first math operation that starts the whole sequence. In fact, any direction we choose for our offset will be equal to the opposite offset on both the Mandelbrot and Julia sides. This is why all the Julia sets are reverse mirror images of themselves at any line that passes through the origin. Let's zoom out a ways and take a look at what happens to the full Mandelbrot set as we move our offset out to a distance of 1 and travel around in a circle. We'll use the Julia set with a C of 0 for this. As I said, the Mandelbrot set does some pretty interesting gymnastics depending on the offset we use. The closer we are to the edge of the Mandelbrot set when we start offsetting gives us a higher chance of running into these gymnastics. And this explains why the Julia set gets extremely chaotic right before our C becomes completely inside. And in effect, this makes a Julia set with a value of C a complete index for the Mandelbrot set at the point corresponding to that C for all starting offset values. Here's another way to look at this. Let's start with our good old Mandelbrot set. Now, let's overlay the Julia set for 0 plus 0i at its corresponding point and tilt it up. We'll remove all of the Julia points except for those that ride the complex axes. We can now do the same for the other points down Mandelbrot's real axis. When we do this for all the points down the real axis, we'll end up with this funny-looking triangle shape. So now we have a picture of all the points along the Mandelbrot's real axis with all of the complex-only offsets. Again, in the complex direction, we get a CAT scan of the full Mandelbrot set with a complex offset. We can do the same for the real offset as well. We'll tilt the set sideways to get a more complete picture. Now, two-dimensional slices are pretty and informative, but to see the full beauty of these mathematical structures, we need to go 3D. Here we have a three-dimensional slice of the complete Mandelbrot set as its offset sweeps up the complex axis. The Mandelbrot set with the sweep along the real axis. The Julia sets that ride the real axis combine to form this structure. Perhaps the oddest one of all, the Julia sets that right along the complex axis. Finally, I'll close out this video with an attempt to show the full structure of the Mandelbrot set with every offset. This will effectively show every possible Julia set point for z² plus c. I've been your host, Drew Kearns. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, Ceres. Ceres, I thought you could you just mute for a minute, Ceres. Right, I'll just mute Ceres for a minute. Ceres, you played that one. I thought you would play the other one first, maybe, and then go into that one because it's very sort of technical. But play the one on Sun and Moon then, because that's very visual. It's the third one in, Ceres.
Well, didn't I have it already? Yeah, I think this is one, huh?
Yeah, just so that They see maybe something else as well. No, not that one, Ceres.
Oh yeah, and this one, no.
The third one in on no, well, okay. Play the horse. Play the horse, Ceres.
Oh, sorry.
It's that powerful and that you live with the fourth dimension. Slam. In discussing the large-scale structure of the cosmos, astronomers sometimes say that space is curved, or that the universe is finite but unbounded. Whatever are they talking about? Let's imagine that we are perfectly flat. I mean, absolutely flat, and that we live, appropriately enough, in a flatland, a land designed and named by Edwin Abbott, a Shakespearean scholar who lived in Victorian England. Everybody in flatland is, of course, exceptionally flat. We have squares, circles, triangles. We all scurry about, and we can go into our houses and do our flat business. Now, we have width and length, but no height at all. Now, these little cutouts have some little height, but let's ignore that. Let's imagine that these are absolutely flat. That being the case, we know, us flatlanders, about left-right, and we know about forward-back, but we have never heard of up-down. Let us imagine into flatland, hovering above it, comes a strange three-dimensional creature which, oddly enough, looks like an apple. And the three-dimensional creature sees an attractive, congenial-looking square, watches it enter its house, and decides in a gesture of interdimensional amity to say hello. Hello, says the three-dimensional creature. How are you? I am a visitor from the third dimension. Well, the poor square looks around his closed house, sees no one there, and what's more, has witnessed a greeting coming from his insides, a voice from within. He surely is getting a little worried about his sanity. The three-dimensional creature is unhappy about being considered a psychological aberration, and so he descends to actually enter flatland. Now, a three-dimensional creature exists in flatland only partially. Only a plane, a cross-section through him can be seen. So when the three-dimensional creature first reaches flatland, it's only the points of contact which can be seen. And we'll represent that by stamping the apple in this ink pen and placing that image in flatland. And as the apple were to descend through, slither by flatland, we would progressively see higher and higher slices, which we can represent by the apple. So the square, as time goes on, sees a set of objects mysteriously appear from nowhere and inside a closed room and change their shape dramatically. His only conclusion could be that he's gone bonkers. Well, the apple might be a little annoyed at this conclusion, and so not such a friendly gesture from dimension to dimension, makes a contact with the square from below and sends our flat creature fluttering and spinning above flatland. At first, the square has no idea of what's happening. It's terribly confused. It's utterly outside his experience. After a while, he comes to realize that he is seeing inside closed rooms in flatland. He is looking inside his fellow flat creatures. He is seeing flatland from a perspective no one has ever seen it before, to his knowledge. Getting into another dimension provides as an incidental benefit a kind of X-ray vision. Now our flat creature slowly descends to the surface, and his friends rush up to see him. From their point of view, he has mysteriously appeared from nowhere. He hasn't walked from somewhere else. He's come from some other place. They say, for heaven's sake, what's happened to you? And the poor square has to say, well, I was in some other mystic dimension called up. And they will pat him on his side and comfort him, or else they'll ask, well, show us, where is that third dimension? Point to it. And the poor square will be unable to comply. But maybe more interesting is the other direction in dimensionality. What about the fourth dimension? Now, to approach that, let's consider a cube. We can imagine a cube in the following way. You take a line segment and move it at right angles to itself in equal length. That makes a square. Move that square in equal length at right angles to itself, and you have a cube. Now, this cube, we understand, casts a shadow. And that shadow we recognize. It's, ordinarily drawn in third grade classrooms as two squares with their vertices connected. Now, if we look at the shadow of a three-dimensional object in 2 dimensions, we see that, in this case, not all the lines appear equal. Not all the angles are right angles. the three-dimensional object has not been perfectly represented in its projection in 2 dimensions, but that's part of the cost of losing a dimension in the projection. Now, let's take this 3-dimensional cube and project it, carry it through a 4th physical dimension. Not that way, not that way, not that way, but at right angles to those 3 directions. I can't show you what direction that is, but imagine that there is a 4th physical dimension. In that case, we would generate a 4-dimensional hypercube, which is also called a tesseract. I cannot show you a tesseract because I and you are trapped in 3 dimensions. But what I can show you is the shadow in 3 dimensions of a 4-dimensional hypercube or tesseract. This is it. And you can see it's 2 nested cubes, all the vertices connected by lines. And now the real tesseract in 4 dimensions would have all the lines of equal length and all the angles right angles. That's not what we see here, but that's the penalty of projection. So you see, while we cannot imagine the world of 4 dimensions, we can certainly think about it perfectly well. Now, imagine a universe just like Flatland, truly 2-dimensional, and entirely flat in every direction, but with one exception. Unbeknownst to the inhabitants, their 2-dimensional universe is curved into a 3rd physical dimension, maybe into a sphere, but at any rate, into something entirely outside their experience. Locally, their universe still looks flat enough, but if one of them, much smaller and flatter than me, takes a very long walk along what seems to be a straight line, he would uncover a great mystery. Suppose he marked his starting point here and set off to explore his universe. He never turns around and he never reaches an edge. He doesn't know that his apparently flat universe is actually curved into an enormous sphere. He doesn't sense that he's walking around a globe. Why should his space be curved? Because there's so much matter in this universe that But our Flatlander doesn't know this. After a long while, you'll find he somehow returns to his starting point. There must be a 3rd dimension. Our Flatlander couldn't imagine a 3rd dimension, but he could sure deduce it. Now, increase all the dimensions in this story by 1, and you have something like the situation which many cosmologists think may actually apply to us. We are 3-dimensional creatures trapped in 3 dimensions. We imagine our universe to be flat in 3 dimensions, but maybe it's curved into a 4th. We can talk about a 4th physical dimension, but we can't experience it. No one can point to the 4th dimension. I mean, there's forward, back, there's up, down, and there's some other directions simultaneously at right angles to those familiar 3 dimensions.
Ceres, can you just play the bit with the guy with the hat on? Now, that's all to do with numbers and figures and tesseracts and all that. This is to do with it more spiritually.
Sure.
It's before the horse. Before the horse.
Oh, the boy.
The boy. After the boy. Because you've already done it, really, with the last guy. There he is. There he is.
Watching my video, and I hope this gave you a better idea of what the 4th dimension is.
Howdy, partners. Today's video, I want to talk about how to know if you are living in the 4th dimensional realm. Now, first things first, I just want to say, if you are living in the 4th dimensional realm, certain things will be happening to you, and these certain things that will be happening to you, they affect everybody differently. You see what I'm saying? So, for example, if you are living in the 4th dimensional realm, you will be able to read people's thoughts from a far away distance. Some people don't have this yet. Even if you are living through the fourth dimensional realm, some people can read people's thoughts, you know what I'm saying? Because everybody's different, but some people can. Let's see. You'll be able to see through illusions. Like when I say see through illusions, you will be able to tell like what's real and what's not. You know what I'm saying? Like, but this is, you know, it affects certain people. But you'll also be able to see, like, it depends like on how clear your mind is. You know what I'm saying? How clouded your thoughts is, because if your thoughts is clouded, then with this certain thing, you won't really be able to see it. But if you live through the fourth dimensional realm, you'll be able to see like spiritual things. Like, for example, like if you sit in a dark room, sometimes you'll be able to see like those little light entities, like the little orbs. Like, for example, right? Let's say if you like focus your eyes, or you like make your eyes do like a certain thing. When you make your eyes do a certain thing, you see like these little clear little orbs, and they be moving around the room and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? Like that's one way to know if you live with the fourth dimensional realm. Those orbs, whatever you want to call them, those little, you know, clear things that you be seeing like around your eyes and stuff like that. That's seeing like through the illusion. You see what I'm saying? Because you're able to see your ancestors. You know what I'm saying? They just little orbs and stuff like that. But if you live through the fourth dimensional realm, like it's just like you are basically like upgraded. You feel me? Like you like your DNA has upgraded to a certain level. You know what I'm saying? Even though some people are living in the fifth dimensional realm in the mind. You know what I'm saying? Because the fifth dimensional realm is being created. Sound crazy, I know that, but the fifth dimension is being created. You know what I'm saying? You can go type in Google the third dimension splitting from the fifth dimension splitting from the third dimension. You know, so this stuff is actually real. It starts spiritually first, and it happens physically. You know what I'm saying? So basically, it's like this. When you live through the fourth dimension, telepathy, you can talk to people with your thoughts. You can send energy out your hands. You can send energy out your forehead. You know what I'm saying? You basically just like, I wouldn't say better than everybody, but when it comes to like, for example, right, everybody had their own special talent, whether you could draw, sing, you know what I'm saying, act, you know, anything that has to do with talent and art, you will be the best out of everybody in the room at whatever you're good at. You see what I'm saying? That's how you know if you live in the fourth dimensional realm. It's like your talent is enhanced. You see what I'm saying? Like, real talk. People think it's a game. So, like, in order to get to the fourth dimensional realm, you must, one, build up your light vibration. You see what I'm saying? You must build up your light body, which is your soul. You know what I'm saying? Which is your third eye energy, which is your chi energy, which is your chakra system, whatever. You know what I'm saying? You must cleanse your chakras so they're turning clockwise, not counterclockwise. If your chakras are turning counterclockwise, that means they're going backwards, which means it's taking you in reverse, going to B state. And B state is nothing but anger, lust, jealousy, hate, envy, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? But if your chakras is turning clockwise, then that means you're going with the vibrations of the earth. You feel me? Like, you can be able to feel people feelings, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can look at somebody and like your perception just increase. You can look at somebody and be like, this is their problem, this is their problem, or this is what's wrong with them, this is what's wrong with them. You know what I'm saying? You would be able to tell, like, it's with, like, you would know if you live through the fourth dimension. It's like everything is in sync. Everything is in sync. You know what I'm saying? When you look at something, you can tell the history of that thing. When you touch a tree, you can feel the energy of that tree. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people don't even know that. Like, what else? Let's see. If you look at a bird or something like that, if you focus your energy on it, you can make that bird come towards you. You see what I'm saying? Just like a dog. Like, it's another way to know if you live through the fourth dimension. Like, if you walk down the street or anything and you see like a stray dog and it goes two ways, you know what I'm saying? If your energy on a negative, if your energy is negative, then that dog might chase you or bite you. Or if you are with the vibrations of the earth, you'll get a telepathy that dog and tell that dog to walk beside you. People think this is thing, but that's true. And since I'm speaking on animals, basically what I'm trying to say is like this, right? If you have an animal, right? Dog, cat, ferret, you know what I'm saying, kangaroo, whatever. You could telepathy your dog. I mean, you could telepathy your animal. Everybody don't have dogs. But you could telepathy your animal. So, for example, if you live on a fourth dimensional realm and you want to test to see if you live in a fourth dimensional realm, sit next to your animal, right? And look at your dog, cat, or whatever animal you have. Look at it in the eyes, right? And while you're looking at it in the eyes, say some things in your head. But what you're saying in your head is energy and vibrations going towards that animal. And once you're looking at the animal and you saying whatever you're saying in your mind, like for example, if you say like, this is what I do sometimes. Be like, you look at your dog or whatever, and you say, if you can hear what I'm saying, bark. And you keep on saying in your head, repeating in your head. But as you repeat it in your head, you're looking into the animal's eyes. You like in your head, you saying, if you can hear what I'm saying, bark. Or you got a cat, if you can hear what I'm saying, meow, or you know what I'm saying, react or go crazy. And you keep saying it, and if the dog is barking or going nuts, that means they can hear you. You see what I'm saying? That means that your energy is that powerful and that you live through the fourth dimensional realm.
That's the end series. Yeah, everything's multi-dimensional. Stop that blender.
I need to read you in anyway. Let's save it.
What are you doing, Ceres?
Saving my blender render.
Well, we have been going for quite a long time now, haven't we? So maybe it's about time we ended that. I'm going to mute Ceres. I had to do it, Ceres. I'm really sorry. I'm muting you. Anyway, so thanks for everybody watching. Maybe it's just a bit more of an understanding. This whole thing we're living in is just incredible. The whole thing. Multi-dimensions going on in your body, in your head, everything out here. This finding people who are part of it. We are back tomorrow with Poncho Pete, Vincent and Patricia Steer. We'll see you all tomorrow, and flat earth hugs from me and Ceres. Yay! And see you tomorrow. Watching. Bye bye everybody.